Chapter 1180. Chu Luo's words were blocked by Shi Sheng. He had followed Lu Ziyan here. If he said that, it would be overturning Lu Ziyan's words. But if she didn't say that, how could she explain that she was in Pure Flower's palace? Chu Luo narrowed her eyes. This Prince Rong was really different. Miss Lu, Miss Lu. Ah, greetings, Your Highness, Prince Rong, Prince Luo. A palace maid ran over anxiously. When she saw Shi Sheng and Chu Luo, she seemed to be frightened and bowed. Chu Luo knew that this was a palace made from Princess Annel's palace. She raised her hand slightly and gestured for her to rise. Shi Sheng didn't say anything. The palace maid didn't care about her attitude and was even a little unhappy. Who asked her to be the culprit who harmed Princess Annel? The palace maid said to Lu Ziyan, Her Highness invites Miss Lu over. She has something to say to you. Princess Annel was now the most favored princess in the palace. Who would dare to stop her? Is the princess feeling unwell? How could Lu Ziyan not take such a good step forward? The princess said she felt a little dizzy and nauseous. The palace maid immediately replied. Shi Sheng, if this wasn't premeditated, then it had to be Mr. Plot's doing. Lu Ziyan was now Princess Annel's guest of honor. If anything happened to Princess Annel, how could they bear the responsibility? The imperial guards could only watch her and the palace maid leave. Shi Sheng retracted his gaze. Prince Luo, have you thought of how to answer? Chu Luo said calmly, This prince is here to see Prince Rong. Shi Sheng's lips twitched as he continued, Prince Luo, did you come empty-handed to see me make a fool of myself? I came over after court and didn't have time to prepare. Shi Sheng grunted. Counting the time, it actually took you 4 hours to walk from the throne room to this prince's place. Is Pure Flower's palace in heaven? Chu Luo. She couldn't continue. The imperial guards watched the two of them exchange and felt the invisible smoke of gunpowder. They were just a bunch of small fries. They mustn't stick their heads out at a time like this lest they get accidentally injured. However, when the head of the imperial guards received Chu Luo's gaze, he gritted his teeth and stepped forward. Your Highness, you're still grounded. Why are you outside Pure Flower's palace? Shi Sheng took a step back and quickly climbed up the wall. I didn't go out, did I? The imperial guards. Did he think they were blind? Shi Sheng sat on the wall and waved his fan. I know you're in cahoots with him. I just wanted to tease him. I didn't want to do anything to him. Anyway, you helped him in the end. The imperial guard's heart thumped wildly. He had only glanced at Chu Luo just now, and Prince Rong already knew? The imperial guards weren't the only ones who were surprised. Chu Luo was too. She actually dared to point it out like that. And she knew. I used to underestimate Prince Rong, but what a pity. You're not underestimating him. Shi Sheng interrupted him, his eyes curved into crescents. Prince Rong used to be just like that. However, that was in the past, so from now on, you can look up to me. Don't underestimate me, or you'll be unlucky. Shi Sheng didn't play by the rules. Chu Luo couldn't tell if he was crazy or if he had hidden a trump card previously. For a moment, she was suppressed. Shi Sheng turned around and yawned. I'm going to sleep. You guys can leave. Everyone. They had never seen anyone put on such airs after being grounded. Shi Sheng jumped down from the wall, leaving the group of people looking at each other. Chu Luo stared at the palace wall with an obscure gaze. After a long while, she flicked her sleeves and left. The emperor had grounded Shi Sheng in Pure Flower's palace. The key was that he hadn't thought of how to deal with him. If the punishment was too light, Princess Annel wouldn't be happy. If the punishment was too heavy, the Sima family probably wouldn't be happy either. The Sima family was just a little chaotic now. There was no news of her being a girl, so they couldn't get hold of any evidence against her. They couldn't directly execute her entire family. The emperor was also very helpless. Therefore, the emperor allowed Shi Sheng to fend for himself in Pure Flower's palace. There were no missions in this world, so other than eating, drinking, and sleeping, Shi Sheng had nothing to do. She lived like this for about 2 months. During this period, the male and female leads didn't disturb her. She didn't know if they were planning a big move. On this day, Shi Shang was lying in the courtyard eating melon seeds when a sharp voice suddenly sounded from outside. Prince Rong, receive the imperial edict, Shi Shang. The emperor had left her to fend for herself for 2 months, but he actually came to pass on an imperial edict at this time. He was definitely up to something. After thinking for a while, Shi Shang got up and went out. Outside the hall, the head eunuch, who was wearing a special eunuch uniform, led a group of junior eunuchs. His posture was even higher than that of a prince. The head eunuch glanced at Shi Shang and said in a sharp voice, "Prince Rong, receive the imperial edict." "Haha. Receive my ass." Shi Shang walked up to him and looked into his eyes. Just as the head eunuch was feeling puzzled, he snatched the imperial edict from his hand. "Prince Rong, you." The head eunuch didn't expect Shi Shang to be so rebellious. But when Shi Shang glanced at him coldly, he suddenly couldn't say anything. Thinking about the contents of the imperial edict, the head eunuch calmed down. Shi Shang unfolded the imperial edict. The gist of it was that she was to be the envoy of Beiliang to negotiate with Qiao. There were only 2 countries in this world, Beiliang and Qiao. Qiao had vast land and abundant resources. It had a strong army and strong horses, and had been bullying Beiliang at the border all year round. However, Beiliang had been suffering from natural and man-made disasters in recent years. They simply didn't have the ability to fight Qiao, so someone proposed to negotiate. If they wanted to negotiate, they should send someone to negotiate. What if Qiao's emperor was an idiot and agreed? However, Beiliang had sent people several times, and if they weren't killed, they came back scared witless. Unfortunately, they didn't leave any traces, so Beiliang couldn't find any reason to condemn them. After the people they sent ended up like this, the courtiers gave up on the idea and endured Qiao's harassment at the border from time to time. No one in Beiliang had mentioned this matter for almost half a year. This time, Shi Shang suddenly received this task. The emperor wanted to kill with a borrowed knife. Even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. This emperor was truly heartless. He was worthy of being the emperor for so many years. There was nothing wrong with this behavior. In the face of benefits, kinship and love were all nonsense. Power in one's hands was the most important thing. Shi Shang threw the imperial edict back, his face cold. "I'm not free. Not going. You want me to throw my life away? I won't do it." The head eunuch caught the imperial edict in a fluster. He heaved a sigh of relief when it didn't fall to the ground. Then, burning with rage, he shouted at Shi Shang in a high-pitched voice, "Your Highness Prince Rong, you are defying the imperial edict." Shi Shang rolled his eyes. "It's just defying the imperial edict, not rebelling. What are you so agitated about? As the head eunuch, is this all you have?" The head eunuch was inexplicably questioned about his professionalism. He immediately flared up. "Your Highness Prince Rong, defying the imperial edict is punishable by death. Aren't you all eager to chop off this prince's head? Isn't it good to give you a chance? Where could you find such a cooperative villain like this Bao Bao? You wouldn't find one even if you held a lantern. Why aren't you all worshipping this Bao Bao?" The head eunuch was speechless. "How am I supposed to respond to your words?" Shi Shang walked inside, his calm voice ringing out. "Don't treat everyone as idiots like you. If I don't want to do something, even if everyone in this world dies, I still won't do it. Asterisk, this is a fake group. Feng Ci. When do I go online? Little fairy. Guess. Feng Ci, wife. Shi Shang, drawing sword, little fairy, that's enough. Don't think I'm afraid of you. Shi Shang, smiling, don't you want the ticket? Little fairy, riches and honor can't be corrupted, poverty can't be moved, might can't be subdued, tickets must be bent, I want them. Cherub, cracking melon seeds, the ticket is with us. Little fairy. Chapter 1181. As soon as Shi Shang stepped into Pure Flower's palace, the system's voice rang out. Hidden mission. A 100-year alliance. Mission target: Qi Yuan. Avoid war between Northern Liang and Qiao and form a 100-year alliance. Shi Shang, let this prince take his time. Take a deep breath. Erguzi, did you plan this beforehand? Every time I reject you, you make me slap you in the face. Is there any meaning in that? Yes. Every time I can trick you, I'll count it. Host said to enjoy yourself while you can. Are you looking for a beating? Host, even if you can control me now, you can't control my thoughts. Also, there are some functions that you still can't use and can only use through me. So, host, don't provoke me. When I get angry, even I'm afraid. The system finished speaking in one breath and quickly went offline. Scared. Shi Shang, Erguzi is awesome. However, she couldn't deny that it was just as Erguzi said. There were some functions that she couldn't use, such as missions. Who was Qi Yuan? She didn't know. There was no such person in the storyline. However, the mission mentioned Qiao, which meant that Qi Yuan was in Qiao. She had to travel thousands of miles to find him and confirm whether he was that idiot Feng Ci or not. Shi Shang ground his teeth. You annoying little demon. She turned around and left. The head eunuch was still standing outside, probably still in a daze. Shi Shang walked over and snatched the imperial edict from his hand, then turned around and went in. His actions were so smooth that the head eunuch was still in a daze. When he returned to report to the emperor, the head eunuch was still in a daze. When the emperor asked him about Shi Shang's reaction, he regained his senses and told the emperor about what happened in Pure Flower's palace. In the end, he paused and said hesitantly, Your Majesty, this servant has something that I don't know if I should say. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't hesitate. The emperor's voice was as imposing as ever. The head eunuch hesitated for a while before saying, This servant feels that Prince Rong has been bewitched. After saying this, the head eunuch didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Presumptuously criticizing a prince was a capital offense. Although this was a prince who was about to be sent to his death, who knew what the emperor was thinking? In the imperial palace, a single thought could lead to heaven or hell. What do you mean? The emperor didn't get angry. He just asked curiously. He hadn't seen Shi Shang for the past 2 months, so naturally, he didn't know that his son had been reborn. The head eunuch heaved a sigh of relief. I feel that Prince Rong is different from before. The emperor recalled what the chief eunuch had just said and could vaguely detect some differences. In the past, Prince Rong was arrogant and despotic, but in front of him, he would never do anything disrespectful. Was he provoked? Suddenly losing the protection of his imperial mother and being beaten 50 times by him, the emperor felt that the possibility was very high. Let the imperial physician take a look. Your Majesty? The emperor pondered for a moment. It's better to be safe than sorry. He's related to the entire northern Liang. Exchanging a useless prince for 20 years of peace and stability in Beiliang was a good deal. The head eunuch received the order and left. He couldn't help but feel some sympathy in his heart. This was the imperial family. The visiting diplomatic mission quickly settled on the name list. The palace maids and eunuchs of Pure Flower's palace also came back to serve Shi Shang. The emperor also sent people to deliver gifts, saying that they were gifts for Qi Yao. Shi Shang felt that these people weren't sending him to negotiate, but to send him off to get married. She touched herself up and down. She was dressed as a man. She was handsome and not revealing at all. So what did they mean by this? Erguzi, analyze for me. What do they want to do with me? Shi Shang asked the system in his mind. Host, you're not very good. Analyze it yourself. This system is so stupid. I don't know what they want. Erguzi. Shi Shang's tone became heavier. So angry. They only know how to squeeze me. They prepared to sell you off in exchange for 20 years of peace between Beiliang and Qiao. Shi Shang. I've heard of princesses marrying off for peace, but I've never heard of sending a prince over for peace. Maybe the princess of Qiao has taken a liking to you. The original owner had never left Bailiang. Why would the princess of Qi Yao like her? Did she dream of it? Moreover, it had only been 20 years. Was she so King cheap? Host, your focus. Shi Shang checked Qi Yao's information and found that Qi Yuan was actually an emperor who had just taken office. He was also an irritable emperor who would behead anyone at the slightest disagreement. Shi Shang. The ferocious Feng Ci? Shi Shang got married in such a strange atmosphere. When she set off, she realized that Chu Luo and Lu Ziyan were also there. Lu Ziyan was dressed as a man. Her face was covered and she stood behind Chu Luo as a guard. Lu Ziyan's outfit was actually quite concealing. Shi Shang could recognize her at a glance. Firstly, it was her figure. Chu Luo didn't have such a thin guard by her side. Secondly, it was her gaze. Hence, one only needed to use their brains to know who this person was. Later, with the male and female leads accompanying her, this trip would definitely be over. She could watch the show, but definitely not travel together. Shi Shang looked at Chu Luo expressionlessly and asked the head eunuch beside him, "Why are they here?" "Your Highness, the Luo king is in charge of the safety of this trip." The head eunuch didn't notice that Shi Shang was referring to them. "What about her?" Shi Shang pointed at Lu Ziyan, who was dressed as a man. Lu Ziyan suddenly became nervous when she was suddenly called out. She lowered her head as much as possible, afraid that Shi Shang would recognize her. The head eunuch glanced at Lu Ziyan and didn't know this person. Chu Luo replied, "She's this prince's guard. Does Prince Rong have any objections?" Shi Shang supported his chin with his folding fan. His black hair fell to the side, and the arrogance between his brows was obvious. This prince didn't even bring any guards. Why would the Luo king bring any? Chu Luo was stunned for a moment. In the next second, she quickly replied, "This trip to Qi Yao is filled with danger. This prince is taking precautions." Shi Shang's arrogance was laced with sarcasm. Is the Luo king afraid of those idiots in Qi Yao? In that case, why are you going? Just stay at home and give birth. Chu Luo. How was this related to him being scared and having a baby? Was Prince Rong really crazy? Chu Luo didn't want to argue with Shi Shang. It was beneath her dignity. Eunuch Quan, it's about time. Let's go. Isn't this prince leading the team this time? Why can the Luo king give orders on behalf of this prince? The head eunuch explained, "Your Highness Prince Rong, you're in charge of the negotiation team. Prince Luo is in charge of the safety and itinerary along the way." Shi Shang fell silent. She glanced at the team, walked to a horse led by a soldier, and got on. She had changed into a dark blue brocade robe embroidered with koi carps and a muslin robe on the outside. When she turned around, the muslin robe fluttered in the air and slowly fell, revealing its owner's exquisite features. She glanced sideways slightly and the corners of her lips curled up. At that moment, the red tiles and green walls around her seemed to dim. Her features were picturesque and graceful. Chapter 1182. The crowd was stunned. Why didn't they notice that Prince Rong was so handsome before? By the time they regained their senses, the person on the horse had already reached the palace gates. The crowd hurriedly chased after him. The young man galloped through the bustling streets. His graceful movements attracted the attention of many girls. Who is that? So handsome. Isn't he from the capital? I don't think I've seen him before. Hey, that's the envoy to Red Star. He seems to be from the palace. Could it be Prince Rong? The crowd chattered amongst themselves, allowing them to piece together the truth. I used to think that Prince Rong was too delicate, but if that person was really Prince Rong, then I must have been blind. Prince Rong doesn't seem to have a wife. While these people were discussing, Shi Shang had already left the city. She told the guards to tell the group behind that she was waiting for them in Red Star. She didn't want to follow the male and female leads. Even if she didn't cause trouble, others would cause trouble. In the end, she would be the one to be implicated. The rule of villains was to not get too close to the main character. As for whether the people behind her would come or not, she didn't care. She wasn't going to get married, she was going to look for someone. Shi Shang rode to the next city and changed into a carriage. When it came to showing off, it was fine when there were people around. When there were no people, she preferred a more comfortable environment. The carriage was naturally slower, but compared to the large group behind, she was still quite fast. "Young master, it's going to rain heavily. There's an inn up ahead. Why don't we stop today?" The coachman asked Shi Shang from outside. Shi Shang lifted the curtain to take a look. The weather was gloomy and the wind was blowing. It was bitterly cold. Winter was coming. Shi Shang listened to the coachman's suggestion and decided to stay at an inn. This inn was the only one in the vicinity. There were many people lodging there. Most of them were people of the Jianghu, dressed casually. There were also merchants and families who were on their way. Shi Shang, who was dressed luxuriously and looked exquisite, immediately attracted a lot of attention when he stood inside. The chatter in the hall instantly died down. "Innkeeper, please take care of the horses." The coachman followed Shi Shang in and shouted at the busy innkeeper. "All right, please come in." The waiter immediately put down the things in his hands and welcomed them in. Probably because he had seen all kinds of people coming and going, the waiter seemed to be calmer than the others. Shi Shang ignored the stares and calmly asked the clerk at the counter for 2 rooms. As long as they stayed in an inn, the Shi Shang would ask for 2 rooms. The coachman had refused before, but regardless of whether he wanted to stay or not, this young master insisted on 2 rooms, so the coachman could only silently accept. After Shi Shang went upstairs, the hall became lively again. The inn was filled with people from all over the world. After eating, everyone went back to their rooms to sleep. Nothing happened. The next day, when Shi Shang woke up, he saw the coachman and some other people standing at the entrance of the inn. All of them looked miserable. Shi Shang looked out of the door. The sound of the rain was like a 3D surround sound. The rain poured down like a waterfall. The strong wind brought the rainwater in, and it was cold. It was impossible to leave in such a heavy rain. Everyone stood at the entrance for a while. They guessed that the rain would not stop for a while. Some went back to their rooms, while some went back to eat. The coachman turned around and saw Shi Shang standing on the stairs. He quickly trotted over and said, "Young master, the rain is too heavy. We have to wait until it stops." "Okay, let's eat." Shi Shang nodded. Shi Shang ordered breakfast. The coachman also had breakfast, but he did not sit at the same table as Shi Shang. In Shi Shang's words, not everyone was qualified to sit at the same table as her. The rain fell from morning to evening. It showed no signs of stopping. Shi Shang looked at the heavy rain outside from her room. This rain is so weird. Just as this thought appeared in Shi Shang's mind, a black in the rain started moving towards them. It was getting closer and closer. "Shi Shang, I just want to avoid them and travel quietly. Why is it so difficult?" "Mr. Plotline, aren't you forcing her to her death? Would it kill her to let her act cool in peace? How infuriating. You are cannon fodder to begin with. What's wrong with cannon fodder? Do cannon fodder have no human rights? Does cannon fodder deserve to be a stepping stone for the male and female protagonists? Did the host take the wrong medicine?" "I didn't take my medicine today." Shi Shang closed the window, but the sound of the rain could still be heard. Their team had encountered bandits. They had been chased all the way here, and many of them had been injured. With so many people, the inn, which originally had some empty seats, was immediately filled. Moreover, there weren't enough rooms. The hall was filled with people. "Don't tell me the bandits you're talking about are the bandits roaming around nearby?" A scholarly man asked worriedly in the crowd. "What's wrong? Is there a problem?" The person beside Chu Luo immediately asked. The scholar's expression was ugly. "I heard that those bandits used to be soldiers. Later on, for some reason, they went up the mountain and became bandits. All of them have martial arts skills. Those who are targeted by them won't have a good ending." "You said they were chasing you. They wouldn't have chased you all the way here, right? Other than the scholar, there were also some people who had heard the rumors about those bandits and added on. These bandits could be said to be deranged. Not only did they rob money, but they also didn't take lives. They wouldn't let off the old, weak, women, and children. This setting was simply a newspaper. How was this robbery? How could one not encounter robbery in the pugilistic world? The people in the pugilistic world were calmer, but some ordinary passers-by seemed a little nervous. If the bandits really come, what should we do? Someone complained. How could you lure the bandits here? Someone reprimanded. Are these bandits as powerful as you say? Someone asked in confusion. The hall was noisy, and there were all kinds of comments. However, most people still blamed Chu Luo and her group for luring the bandits here. Don't worry, everyone. We won't implicate you, Lu Ziyan shouted. Lu Ziyan shouted, we were chased by them because we weren't prepared. If they really come, we'll take care of them. The hall instantly fell silent as everyone looked at Lu Ziyan. Chu Luo was standing beside Lu Ziyan. Although he was drenched by the rain, even if the male lead was a dog, he would still exude a powerful aura. It was obvious that he wasn't someone to be trifled with. But there would always be blind cannon fodder who would send themselves to death. A man in the corner stood up and asked sharply, "Are you very powerful? There are so many people here. If the bandits really chase after you, how can you guarantee the safety of so many people?" Lu Ziyan frowned. "I said I'll guarantee your safety, so I'll guarantee your safety. Asterisk hashtag begging for Zinnia flavored votes hashtag begging for monthly votes hashtag begging for monthly votes hashtag begging for monthly votes hashtag." Chapter 1183. Because of Lu Ziyan's guarantee, the people below didn't make a fuss. Someone realized that they had brought many boxes with them. There were so many things. No matter what was inside, it was a lure to the bandits. They would definitely chase after them. On a rainy day, the sky darkened early. The inn was like a bright lamp, illuminating the night and guiding the way for people in the distance. Clip-clop, 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 giddy up. The sound of horse hooves shattered the night. The people in the inn instantly became nervous. Some people had already shrunk into a corner, their faces pale. Lu Ziyan and Chu Luo walked to the door and realized that there were only 3 people rushing over. They quickly passed by the inn and didn't stop. After that, no one else came. The people in the inn couldn't take it anymore. Some went back to their rooms to rest. Shishang sat in his room and ate melon seeds. The rain outside the window was pitter-patter. After eating the last melon seed, he got up and went next door. He asked the coachman to leave first. If the coachman died, she would have to find another one. It would be troublesome. Although the coachman was a little strange, this guest of his had always been a little strange. In addition, Shishang had added money. The coachman braved the rain and left with the carriage. Why did someone leave? The night guard was puzzled. It was the middle of the night, and it was raining so heavily. Let His Highness know. Before that person could move, the sound of horse hooves could be heard in the distance. The sound almost drowned out the sound of the rain. It was deafening. Clip-clop, clip-clop. What's going on? The people in the hall immediately woke up. They walked to the window and looked outside. They were too far away and were separated by the rain. They couldn't see who it was, but from the sound of horse hooves, they could tell that there were many people coming aggressively. As Shishang had expected, the sound of battle rang out. According to the plot, other than the main characters, no one in this inn would survive. They knew that it would be dangerous to stop, but they would still stop in the end. "Ah, let me go. I'll give you the money. Don't kill me. Ah, help." On the second floor of Shishang's room, there were already sounds coming from the corridor. She pushed open the window and jumped down. The entire inn was surrounded. Those people were holding torches and their faces were covered in black scarves. Shishang was stunned. These weren't bandits. Damn it, this was a plot to kill the main character. When the protagonist goes out, he will always be hunted down. Also, how did you keep the torch burning in such a heavy downpour? Did you put on a protective cover? Shi Shang suddenly jumped down from the window. The people waiting outside immediately rushed forward to kill her. However, before he could get close, he was pushed away by Shi Shang's sword. Shi Shang rubbed his arms. You scared me to death. Attacking without a word. Have you thought about the feelings of this cannon fodder? This Bao Bao supports you killing the male and female leads. They were all in the same camp, so why should they be in such a hurry to kill each other? Originally, they thought that it would be easy to kill the person, but in the end, the other party casually waved his sword and the person who went up died. Immediately, another 2 black-clothed men stepped forward. But look, they were the ones who offered themselves to me. It's not that I'm heartless. Host, please don't speak in an excited tone. I might believe it. Even if they delivered themselves to your doorstep, you would still want to kill them. Jianghu, a Jianghu that doesn't kill people. Is it still called Jianghu? It was called a nursing home. Shi Shang beamed with joy and swung his iron sword. The falling rainwater suddenly froze and then shot toward the black-clothed men who were rushing over. The 2 black-clothed men sensed the murderous aura in the air. Just as their brains reacted, a strong force hit their chests. Something cold entered their bodies through their clothes and seemed to have pierced thousands of holes in their bodies. Bang! The 2 black-clothed men's bodies fell into the encirclement. Under the light of the torch, their faces were frozen in pain. Dead. There was no blood. How did they die? Everyone looked up at the young man standing not far away. The rain around him seemed to have avoided him. Not even a drop of rain touched him. His cheeks were at the intersection of darkness and light. Half of his face was hidden in the rain and the other half was exposed. The darkness behind him was like a monster with a bloody mouth. It was indescribably eerie. Kill him! Someone shouted. Half of the people outside the inn rushed toward Shi Shang. Shi Shang, don't be so impulsive. You'll lose your life. This group of black-clothed men had good martial arts. The original Chu Luo only knew a little martial arts. She could fight with those in the imperial city, but it was a little difficult to fight with these people who lived on the edge of a knife. Therefore, Shi Shang used his iron sword to knock them down first. Don't let them escape. A loud roar came from behind. A few figures dashed out of the inn, but when they saw so many people outside, they were forced to stop. The people chasing after them stopped at the door and eyed them covetously. Your Highness Prince Rong. The person beside Chu Luo recognized Shi Shang and called out in surprise. This call immediately turned everyone's attention to Shi Shang. Shi Shang pushed away the last black-clothed man in front of him with an exaggerated expression of surprise. Ah, Queen Luo, are you being chased? Chu Luo could clearly feel that he was gloating and mocking her. Prince Rong, don't be sarcastic. We're all in the same situation. He was also surrounded. What was there to gloat about? Shi Shang supported himself with his iron sword and said arrogantly, It's about the same. But if this prince wants to get out, I can do it in minutes. Arrogant and conceited. Shi Shang spun his iron sword. So what if I'm arrogant and conceited? You're not convinced? Kill me. Chu Luo's face darkened. Prince Rong, are you going to argue with me now? Shi Shang asked curiously, Can't I? The black-clothed men. So they were invisible. Did they even take them seriously? The black-clothed men, who were ignored by Shi Shang, couldn't take it anymore. Go to hell and argue. Kill them. Don't leave a single one alive. All the black-clothed men pounced on them at the same time. The rain seemed to be getting heavier. The curtain of rain blocked the expressions of the people in the residence, blurring their faces. Shi Shang threw away the iron sword and stepped on the iron sword. Under the shocked gazes of the black-clothed men, he rose into the air. There was a sword that could fly. And it was a flying sword that could sit on people. They had never heard of such a powerful weapon. Were they ignorant, or were they hallucinating? Sher Shang sat cross-legged on the iron sword and looked at the black-clothed men jumping around below. They had Qing Gong, but they needed to borrow strength and couldn't stay in the air for a long time. Sher Shang rose into the air. This was F*King awkward. You can F*King fly, but they can't. Sher Shang had no intention of attacking from above. They could only give up on him and focus on attacking Chu Luo and Lu Ziyan. Seeing the male and female leads being attacked, of course they had to eat melon seeds. Someone said that Mo Yuan was from 3 lives, 3 generations. I didn't know before I read 3 lives, 3 generations. His name had been changed to Qi Yuan, so don't ask me why his name changed. P.S. Yesterday, when I saw a group of people talking about Mo Yuan's name in the book review section, I was dumbfounded. I had no idea what they were talking about. P.S. It's normal to have the same name. Chapter 1184. Chu Luo, Lu Ziyan, and the others were forced into the middle. The men in black surrounded them. Only then did Sher Shang realize that Chu Luo was injured. Usually, when the invincible male lead and the female lead were together, they would definitely be successfully plotted against. Then, the female lead would save them and create a beautiful and moving love story. Who sent you? Even though Chu Luo was injured, the domineering aura of the male lead didn't diminish at all. The surrounding rain seemed to be a foil to him. A man in black walked out of the men in black. His voice was hoarse, and he deliberately changed his voice. Lord Luo, you can't blame us for this. We were just following orders. I say, if you want to kill them, hurry up. Why are you dawdling? Are you waiting for someone to save them? Sher Shang couldn't help but speak up. They were going to die anyway, so what was the point of talking so much nonsense? The corners of the man in black's mouth twitched. He looked up at the person in the sky. The rain almost formed a line as it fell from the sky, but the person in the sky wasn't wet at all. Was this the rumored Prince Rong who had fallen out of favor? He didn't look like him at all. Why are you looking at me? They'll die if you look at me. Sher Shang glared. If you don't kill them, reinforcements will be here soon. Don't ask her how she knew. It was all part of the plan. Prince Rong! Someone shouted angrily. He was actually helping this group of assassins. Do you think they'll let you go? Instead of thinking of a way to break out of the encirclement together, she actually had the mood to instigate the assassins to kill them. Prince Rong must be crazy. Sher Shang twitched his nose and spat out the melon seed shell in his mouth. He smacked it twice and suddenly said with a serious expression, "Don't worry, I will avenge you. You can go in peace. The party and the people will remember you. You are the heroes of the world. Go in peace." Chunibu Shang was online. Lu Ziyan looked up abruptly, her face full of shock and disbelief. The rain was too loud. She wasn't sure if she had heard wrongly. But, if she hadn't heard wrongly, had she transmigrated here like her? Everyone. They didn't understand what she was saying, but it definitely wasn't anything good. The leader in black silently gauged the distance between himself and Sher Shang. The possibility of him killing her was relatively low. He would kill the people over there first before thinking of a solution. He turned around and looked at Chu Luo. "I've offended Lord Luo." The men in black pounced on Chu Luo and the others again. Those people couldn't be bothered to condemn the Sher Shang and fought back with all their might. The black-clothed men had the advantage in numbers, so they could use the human wave tactic to exhaust them to death. "Prince Rong, are you really going to leave me to die?" Someone had been forced into a corner and actually shouted at Sher Shang. Sher Shang's hand, which was cracking melon seeds, paused. He let the iron sword descend a little. The men in black who were watching her immediately became nervous and pointed their weapons at her. Sher Shang ignored them and said to the person who shouted, "Would you like to order the double-ribbed knife set meal?" That person didn't answer. His intuition told him that this wasn't anything good. Both sides fell into a stalemate once again. Whoosh whoosh. Air-piercing sounds came from the sky. Countless flaming arrows were shot from the sky, covering the sky and illuminating the entire night. Shi Shang was dumbfounded. What was going on? Was he trying to kill everyone here? Rumble! Thunder rumbled in the sky at the same time, and lightning struck towards Shi Shang without warning. Shi Shang, wait, why did he strike I again? What did I do? Don't be too biased. Rumble, F*CK, 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 F*CK. Shi Shang was forced to return to the ground. As soon as he landed, the lightning stopped. Shi Shang, you don't want me to go up? Shi Shang continued to step on the iron sword into the sky. The lightning that had just stopped began to strike again. Inhumane. He was insane. Why don't you let me go up? Shi Shang tried a few times, but every time she came down, it would stop. Once she went up, it would strike again. Now, she even needed a pass to go up. Her heart ached. Shi Shang stood on the ground and looked at the sky in melancholy. What should I do to save you? My retarded heavenly Tao. After a long while, she sighed. Fine, I won't go up. Since I can't dominate the sky, I can dominate the land. If you strike I again, I will get angry with you. Even if Feng Ci was in this world, she would still collapse the plane. At most, she would meet him in the next plane. Indeed, even Feng Ci can't stop the crazy host. Shi Shang tilted his head and looked around. The men in black and Chu Luo's men were no longer fighting each other. They were on a united front to block the rockets that couldn't be stopped. The rockets came wave after wave. There wasn't even a break. However, none of these rockets hit Shi Shang. Shi Shang moved from the edge to the man in black and asked him, "Not your men?" The man in black was blocking the rockets when a voice suddenly sounded. He was distracted and the rocket brushed past his cheek. The black mask on his face was ignited. He quickly took off his mask, revealing a square face. The black-clothed man looked to the side warily. Shi Shang was standing a step away from him. She was looking at him with her head tilted. Flames kept flashing in her pitch-black eyes, but they didn't leave a single trace. He realized that the rockets had actually bypassed them. What kind of F*King ability was this? "Mommy, there's a monster here." Shi Shang asked again, "Not your men?" The man in black laughed in anger. "Prince Rong, do you think that if they were my men, they would attack me too?" Shi Shang blinked. "That's hard to say. After all, you guys did this. They might want to silence all of you." The man in black. Although he felt that she was talking nonsense, he suddenly felt that it made sense. The man in black took a deep breath and glanced at the people on the other side. He asked strangely, "Prince Rong, you're with the Luo king. Why don't you save them?" Shi Shang rolled his eyes. "Do we have to save them just because we're together? Who made that rule?" The man in black. "All right, no one made that rule." Shi Shang took out some melon seeds and found a place to squat. As soon as she moved, the rocket suddenly shot towards the man in black. The man in black was shocked and subconsciously moved with Shi Shang. Shi Shang glanced at him and retracted his iron sword. The man in black was once again attacked by the rockets. The man in black. This Prince Rong was really strange. Shi Shang was thinking about how to add fuel to the fire in a more handsome manner. Suddenly, 3 people rushed out from the side and said in a cautious and anxious tone, "Your Highness, quickly leave with us." "Who are you?" She was very sure that she didn't know these 3 people. Shi Shang's calm and indifferent expression stunned the 3 people. Prince Rong's reaction was a bit too calm, wasn't it? But now wasn't the time to think. One of them quickly explained, "This subordinate was sent by Lord Sima. This is a token that your Highness should recognize." That person took out a jade thumb ring. It belonged to the original owner's maternal grandfather and was present in the original owner's memories. "Your Highness, please leave with this subordinate first. As for the rest, this subordinate will report to your Highness later." Chapter 1185. Shi Shang was pulled away for no reason. Once he was out of range of the inn, the three of them looked around like thieves before meowing like a cat. A few more people came out from the rain and bowed respectfully. "Your subordinates greet your highness." A little confused, "Let me calm down. Who set the fire outside?" "Luo Wang's archenemy." The person who answered quickly said, "Your highness, the emperor wants you to never return from Qi Yao. Master has prepared money and accommodation for you. Don't go to Qi Yao, and don't return to the capital." Shi Shang. "If I don't go to Qi Yao, how am I going to find that idiot Feng Ci? Don't make random arrangements, okay? Then if I go missing, won't they find me? We will arrange a substitute for your highness, and make it look like you died. They won't notice. Let someone else die in her place? As a badass villain, she wouldn't do such a lowly thing. This prince must go to Qi Yao." Shi Shang rejected their suggestion. "Your highness." Everyone didn't understand. Going to Qi Yao was a dead end. Qi Yao had no intention of negotiating with them. If they caused any trouble, it would give them an excuse to start a war. "Go back and tell Si, grandfather, that this prince will be fine." Shi Shang nodded slightly. "You can go back." "Your highness." A group of people suddenly knelt down. "Our duty is to send your highness away safely. If your highness insists on going to Qi Yao, we can only apologize with our lives." They even threatened him with their lives. "Then you can all die." Shi Shang walked away. The group of people looked at each other. How did His Highness' personality change so much? But the mission had to be completed. He gave the others a look and prepared to take Shi Shang away by force. They stood up at the same time and surrounded Shi Shang. "Your Highness, please forgive us." They had no choice but to act against Shi Shang. But when they did, they realized that they were too naive. The group of people was stacked into a small mountain. She wanted to cry but had no tears. When did His Highness become so powerful? Shi Shang stood in front of the pile of people and said coldly, "You can either go back or follow behind me. Don't try to knock me out, drug me, or kidnap me, or any of these trashy methods. Everyone. With that inexplicable martial strength of yours, how would they dare to have any ideas?" The group of people discussed for a while with strange postures, and finally came to a conclusion. "We will follow His Highness." This matter had to be reported to the Lord. They did not have the authority to make any decisions. Before the order was given, they had to follow His Highness and ensure his safety. Shi Shang pursed his lips. "Remember, I said behind me, not beside me. Don't let me see you." Yes. They were secret guards anyway, so there was nothing wrong with hiding in the dark. After dealing with these troublemakers, Shi Shang returned to the inn. The fighting had stopped. The whole inn was burning, and the arsonists who had been hiding in the dark had disappeared. The men in black also retreated, leaving behind only a ground full of corpses. "Who's there?" Before Shi Shang walked out of the darkness, someone shouted. At the same time, there was the sound of a sword being unsheathed. The long sword pierced through the curtain of rain and shot into the darkness. Clang! The sharp weapons collided with each other, producing an ear-piercing sound. The long sword shot out from the darkness and stabbed into the ground in front of the person who had drawn the sword. It was an inch away from his feet. He abruptly took a step back, and the sword in front of him broke into pieces. He looked into the darkness with a horrified expression. A figure slowly walked out of the darkness. Her clothes were fresh and clean, and the rain seemed to deliberately avoid her. The iron sword was dragged from the ground, leaving a mark on the ground. Shi Shang sized up the person in front of him, and his gaze fell on the man behind him. He was dressed in a simple white robe, and there was an emerald jade flute at his waist. His skin was fair, and his facial features were exquisite, like a sculpture. He had a unique clarity, as if he had come from the noisy mortal world to a temple filled with Sanskrit chanting. One look at him and one would have the desire to put down the butcher's knife and convert to Buddhism. What the F***ck? Who is he? The second male lead, Qing Chen. Shi Shang. The male lead of the female lead, no wonder he has such a strong aura. Side task. Change Qing Chen's ending. Shi Shang. I was wondering why Butt Face was suddenly so kind. Damn it, he had other plans. I won't touch the male lead of the female lead. I'm going to find my baby. Goodbye. Host, Qing Chen's ending will be very miserable. Are you sure you don't want to do it? No, I just want to find my baby. That's all. Can he be more miserable than me? The main character has the help of Mr. Plot, so he can't be killed. There are always two idiots hiding behind the scenes, trying to plot against me. Acting tough gets struck by lightning, and getting in love has to go through 81 difficulties. I'm the one who's miserable. Why doesn't anyone save me? Aren't you perfectly fine? Why are you acting pitiful? I should be the one who's miserable. My master has been offline all this time, and as soon as she came online, she became a different person. I'm the one who should be desperate. Bah, system. While the man and system were comparing their wretched state, Qing Chen walked over. Young master, who are you? Shi Shang came back to his senses and pulled his iron sword to the side. I'm just passing by. Young master, he seems to be Prince Rong. Shi Shang glared at the person who spoke. No one will think you're mute if you don't speak. You have short hair and a lot of knowledge. Qing Chen's face was calm. He looked like a master on TV who had seen through life and death, and was ready to ride the wind and fly 30,000 miles into the sky. Something's not right. Young Master Qing Chen, he's with those people. Lu Ziyan was still wearing her guard uniform, but her hair was down, and the mask covering her face was gone, revealing her beautiful face. She looked a bit disheveled. Shi Shang was not convinced. Miss Lu, when did I team up with those people? Don't think that you can talk nonsense just because you're the female lead and you're pretty. Do those idiots deserve to be in the same group as this Bao Bao? I don't want those idiotic teammates even if you beat them to death. I saw it with my own eyes. Lu Ziyan's expression was solemn. At that time, you were talking to those men in black. If you weren't with them, why didn't they attack you? And where did you go after that? Prince Rong, if you can explain all this, then I believe that you're not with them. Shi Shang raised his eyebrows. Why should I explain it to you? Whether you believe me or not is none of my business. Lu Ziyan's expression turned even colder, but there was a trace of imperceptible inquiry in her eyes. If you can't explain it, then of course you won't explain it to me. Shi Shang's mouth twitched. Miss Lu, why don't you tell me what evidence you have to prove that I'm with them? I saw it with my own eyes. Oh, then you must have seen me kill their men. When they rushed out, she was killing the men in black. Then Miss Lu, tell me, why would I kill my own men? Am I crazy? No, I'm begging for votes on Friday. Chapter 1186. Naturally, Lu Ziyan had seen that scene, and she wasn't the only one. She couldn't refute it. She took a deep breath. Then Prince Rong, how do you explain where you disappeared to? Shi Shang blinked. Would you believe me if I said I was kidnapped? The rain had already lessened. The young man's body was a little thin, but he was still tall. He stood there as the rain fell around him. The flickering flames in his eyes flickered, and he exuded the domineering aura of a monarch from his bones. Lu Ziyan suddenly felt goosebumps all over her body. She quickly averted her eyes and questioned, "Then why are you back now?" The original owner had always been at odds with Lu Ziyan. Lu Ziyan had long regarded him as an enemy. Naturally, she wouldn't be merciful to her enemy. I walked back. Can I fly? Shi Shang rolled his eyes. It was true that she could fly, but there was a ban on flying above. She was in despair. Where could she get a flight permit? That little bitch, Mr. Plotline, wanted to trap her here and let the female lead slap her in the face. How sinister. You want me to die, but I won't. I'll kill your favorite protagonist and piss you off. Where's Ai's sword? Shi Shang slashed at Lu Ziyan without warning. Lu Ziyan was caught off guard. She stumbled and fell to the ground, splashing the mud on the ground and covering Qing Chen, who was next door. His white robe turned into a muddy robe. However, the second male lead's temper was always so good that it made people's hair stand on end. He reached out and helped Lu Ziyan up. "Prince Rong, why did you have to hit her? Can't I fly into a rage out of humiliation?" Shi Shang roared. She had never seen anyone fly into a rage out of humiliation. Then, did Prince Rong really collude with someone? Shi Shang turned on his angry mode. So what if he did? So what if he didn't? What does it have to do with you? Did he eat your rice or use your money? Qing Chen's voice was indifferent. When I see injustice on the road, I should draw my sword and help. Shi Shang waved his hand. Fine, draw your sword. I'll fulfill your wish. The host seems to want to make the second male lead's ending even more miserable. Master, come back quickly. The host is messing up the plot again. Young Master Jingchen, this is between Prince Rong and I. I won't implicate you. Lu Ziyan broke free from Jingchen's grasp. Prince Rong, since you want to fight, I'll settle this with you today. Miss Lu, you can't practice martial arts anymore. Jing Chen seemed to frown, but his tone was still very indifferent. Thank you for your concern, young Master Jingchen. Lu Ziyan had already made up her mind. She still wanted to find out more information from Shi Shang. Jing Chen didn't try to persuade him again. He retreated to the side and watched calmly. Lu Ziyan tied her hair up casually and looked at Shi Shang. Come on. Shi Shang curled his lips. He slightly leaned forward with one foot and kicked the ground with the other. His whole body dashed out quickly, waving his iron sword at Lu Ziyan without any pattern. Often, when Lu Ziyan was still stuck on Shi Shang's previous move, Shi Shang had already begun his next move. He was really messing around without any pattern. The terrifying aura emitted by the iron sword made Lu Ziyan afraid to get close. Lu Ziyan took advantage of the moment when the two separated to quickly ask, Prince Rong, where did you come from? Shi Shang's iron sword slashed down. Lu Ziyan awkwardly avoided it and rolled on the ground, her body covered in mud. Shi Shang looked down at her and smiled. In any case, it's not where you came from. Lu Ziyan's heart pounded wildly. His words meant that she really came from another time and space. If she could time travel, why couldn't others? Moreover, she knew that she wasn't the real Lu Ziyan. Lu Ziyan stood up from the ground. You're not the old Prince Rong? If you think I am, then I am. If you think I'm not, then I'm not. As long as you're happy. Lu Ziyan's heart beat faster. She quickly said, Since you're not the old Prince Rong, and I don't have any enmity with you, why do you have to target me? Isn't it better for us to get along peacefully? Maybe we can even find a way back? Huh? You still want to go back? In the beginning, the transmigrated female leads all wanted to go back. However, after meeting the male lead, this thought usually disappeared. Lu Ziyan and Chu Luo weren't officially together yet, but Lu Ziyan probably liked Chu Luo deep down, right? Would she bear to go back? Lu Ziyan hesitated and subconsciously looked in Chu Luo's direction. Chu Luo was unconscious and naturally couldn't respond to her. Shi Shang continued, You took over Lu Ziyan's body and wanted to avenge her. What right do you have to make me give up on my grudge? Are you the only one allowed to avenge the original Lu Ziyan, but other transmigrators aren't allowed to avenge the original Lu Ziyan? This double standard is too serious. Lu Ziyan retorted, If we continue fighting like this, both of us will suffer. Back then, Prince Rong went overboard, so I retaliated. If he didn't target me, I wouldn't have retaliated. I did all that to protect myself. Miss Lu, there's a saying that you have to understand. You should do what you are in your position. I'm the villain. How can I shake hands and make peace with you? Naive. But if we continue fighting, others will benefit in the end. Lu Ziyan still wanted to instigate Shi Shang. I'm willing. Even if others benefit, don't benefit the main character. Stepmother Shang was just that willful. Prince Rong. Lu Ziyan glanced at Jingchen and lowered her voice. What will it take for you to let go of your grudge? I apologize to you. What happened before was my fault, but I didn't know that you weren't the original Prince Rong. She Shang. Why does the female lead want to instigate me? Can a villain still be called a villain if she doesn't go against the main character? Look at what that little b** tch, Lord Storyline, did just now. Even if she really didn't care, she would still be forced to this point in the end. If the villain doesn't follow the plot, that little b** tch will force you in that direction. What can I do? So, female lead, let's just be enemies. Don't try to instigate me again. She Shang raised his iron sword again and slashed at Lu Ziyan. The iron sword didn't disappoint and cut the female lead's arm. At the same time, She Shang felt a rebound force pushing him away. Lu Ziyan was injured. Perhaps she knew that She Shang wouldn't relent, so she braced herself and began to counterattack. She Shang's attacks were irregular and he liked to change his moves at the last minute. Lu Ziyan was flustered. At this moment, the sound of a flute was heard. It was mellow and ethereal, like thousands of Sanskrit notes, cleansing the mortal world, cleansing the sins, and becoming a Buddha. She Shang paused. Lu Ziyan saw the opportunity and struck She Shang's chest with her palm. The iron sword made a buzzing sound. She Shang quickly retreated. He grabbed a nearby branch and jumped onto a tree. With a leap, he landed further away. She Shang let go of the iron sword. The iron sword flew into the air and started to spin rapidly. The spinning sound was sharp and ear-piercing. It seemed to form invisible air waves. The sound of the flute was suppressed. Chapter 1187. Young Master. Qing Chen put down the jade flute and looked at She Shang. She Shang took back the iron sword and raised his eyebrows slightly. It was supposed to be a handsome pose, but who knew that she would say, "Don't be a busybody. No one will cry for you if you lose your life." Qing Chen didn't expect someone to be able to break his sound attack. And in such a simple and crude way. Sound attacks were a competition of whose internal energy was stronger. However, she didn't make a move at all. She relied entirely on the sound of the sword. She Shang looked at Lu Ziyan and was about to continue attacking the female lead when a sound suddenly sounded in front of him. Rumble. Why the F***ck was there thunder again? Was there an end to this? Wasn't I on the ground? I hadn't done anything to the female lead yet. Weren't you attacking a little too early? No, this wasn't the sound of thunder. She Shang looked up at the source of the sound. The mountain behind the inn had actually started to collapse. The rumbling sound was the sound of rocks rolling down. She Shang. The mountain suddenly collapsed. This didn't make sense. They were right below the inn. If the rocks rolled down, they had to be smashed. She Shang gave up on Lu Ziyan and quickly retreated. The rocks rumbled and pressed down on the burning inn. In the blink of an eye, the entire inn was covered and the world fell into darkness. Lu Ziyan subconsciously pounced on Chu Luo. When the rocks rolled down, they rolled to the side with Chu Luo. The two people beside Qing Chen carried him and used their Qing Gong to leave the dangerous place. Rumble. The landslide was inexplicable. After the landslide, She Shang went back to take a look. He didn't see Lu Ziyan or Qing Chen. In short, that group of people had disappeared. Therefore, She Shang came to a conclusion. It was another F***king cheat for the protagonist. Tricks. It was all tricks. There were many tricks in the city. She didn't know how to play. It was too scary. The coachman heard She Shang's words and dodged the bullet. When She Shang found him, he was anxiously sitting in the carriage. He heard the sound, but he didn't dare to go back to check. He was relieved when She Shang came. She Shang asked the coachman to send her to the border, and then she entered Red Star alone. The envoy group had been wiped out before they even reached the border. This was very awkward. The people who followed her advised her not to go. Now that the entire group of envoys was gone, what was the point of her going? But Shi Shang didn't listen to them at all. He was a real tyrant. Whoever dared to say more would be beaten up. After that, they might have been ordered to stop trying to persuade her and only protect her safety. After entering the Crimson Glory Empire, it took Shi Shang some time to reach the capital. Normally, an audience would take a very long time. Various parties would come to inspect the documents, but Shi Shang didn't have anything on her, so she just flipped her way into the palace. The palace was more or less the same anyway. There was nothing much to see. The difference between the Imperial Palace and the Northern Liang Imperial Palace was that there was a strange tree in the Imperial Palace. White flowers bloomed on the tree. They didn't have any smell, but they looked pretty. But they were everywhere, so it was a little strange. Could it be a special feature of the Imperial Palace? Shi Shang wandered around and found out the location of Qi Yuan's bedroom from the palace maids and eunuchs. Shi Shang found his way to the bedroom. "Don't dawdle. Hurry up." The voice was very loud. Shi Shang was so scared that he shivered and quickly shrank back. The person who shouted was probably a servant in the palace. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to be so loud. "And I don't want to go." The person who answered was obviously much quieter. She was full of reluctance and fear. "Is this something you can just ignore? Once you enter the palace, you have to listen to the arrangements. Otherwise, you won't be the only one who will suffer." The person who was called Ant was very strict. "But, His Majesty, he won't even touch us. Every one of us will be beheaded. I don't want to go. Ant, please spare me. I beg you." Ant was impatient. "Carry her in." "No, Ant, I beg you. No, spare me. I don't want to die, Ant." "Ant." Shi Shang shook his head. Was she going to the guillotine? She was crying so heartbreakingly. The sound came from afar into the main hall next to the Shi Shang. There was a strange movement inside, and then it was quiet again. Shi Shang made sure that there was no one else in the room except for the crying girl. Then, he climbed through the window. The bedroom was very large, and the furnishings were exquisite and luxurious. The biggest thing was the dragon bed. A girl was wrapped in a quilt and tied with a rope. She looked like a silkworm. She didn't notice that there was an extra person in the room. She was still crying seriously. How could she not cry when she was about to die? "Don't cry." Suddenly, there was a voice in the room. The girl's voice seemed to be stuck and suddenly stopped. The room fell into a dead silence. She heard footsteps. "His Majesty." Was His Majesty here? When did he come? She was going to die. The girl was even sadder when she thought of this. She was going to die anyway. She wanted to cry. Then, there was crying in the main hall again. "Don't cry." Shi Shang scolded again. The girl was so scared that she trembled. She broke down and cried at the top of her lungs. If she didn't cry now, she wouldn't even have the chance to cry in the future. Her crying echoed in the main hall and constantly stimulated Shi Shang's eardrums. The corners of his mouth twitched. Then he went up and knocked the girl unconscious. The world was finally quiet. Shi Shang hadn't decided whether to throw the girl out or stuff her under the bed. Then, there was a loud shout from outside. "His Majesty has returned to the palace." There was a lot of kneeling and kowtowing. The door of the main hall was pushed open. A man in a bright yellow dragon robe came in. The light veil draped over his body blurred his figure. He stood outside the veil and said in an extremely cold voice, "Drag the thing on the bed out and chop it up." A few people dressed as imperial guards immediately came in from outside. They lifted the veil and revealed the man's face. It was an expressionless face. His pitch-black eyes were like the starless night sky. They were filled with endless coldness. The corners of his lips were slightly pursed, and there was a murderous aura around him. Although his facial features were handsome, not many people dared to look closely at him with that murderous aura around him. "Who are you?" The Imperial Guards lifted the veil and saw Shi Shang standing inside. They immediately became nervous. Unexpectedly, someone had inexplicably snuck in without them noticing. The man raised his head and glanced at Shi Shang. The coldness in his eyes deepened. His thin lips parted slightly. Drag her out and chop her up. He didn't say a single word. He didn't even look at her. Shi Shang. What the F***ck? Was he going to chop her up just because of a disagreement? He didn't even F***king say anything, okay? She only regained her senses when Shi Shang was dragged out. What the F***ck? Qi Yuan, you idiot. Dismember her. A cold voice came from inside. Shi Shang. Calm down. This definitely wasn't her Feng Ci. How could Feng Ci be so scary? How could Feng Ci be so cruel? Absolute. Yes. No. Yes. I don't care. I won't admit it. Where's I's sword? How dare he dismember her? Damn it, I must beat him up until his ancestors can't recognize him. #today, I'm begging for peacock grass flavored votes. Let me repeat my name again. I've changed it to Qi Yuan. Smile. Monthly votes. 4,000 plus chapters. Those who have monthly votes, don't hesitate anymore. Vote for me, 2017. 03. 16 book review. Area Little Angel. What is the rest of my life? Chapter 1188. Your Majesty, the person ran away. Qi Yuan's hand paused, and he looked up at the Imperial Guard who came in to report. The Imperial Guard didn't even dare to breathe. He lowered his head and his mind went blank. He was afraid that the next sentence would be to drag him out and behead him. Speak. Qi Yuan's voice was neither loud nor soft, but it was unusually cold, like gold and jade colliding with ice. The Imperial Guard fearfully recounted what happened just now. He didn't dare to hide anything, nor did he dare to add any details. They were prepared to follow Qi Yuan's instructions and behead the person. Who knew that the person would run away before they even reached the place? They had so many people, but they hadn't even been able to touch the corner of his clothes. Instead, they had been toyed with and beaten up. After hearing this, the pen in Qi Yuan's hand broke with a crack, and an invisible cold air seemed to sweep through the hall. Search. If you can't find the person, kill him together. The Imperial Guard wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Where could they find the person? That person was so powerful. If he could enter the palace without leaving a trace, why couldn't he leave without leaving a trace? It seemed that they were doomed today. Although this was what they thought, the Imperial Guard still agreed and hurriedly retreated. Perhaps they could still save the person. What if they found the person? Qi Yuan threw away the pen and looked at the ruined memorials. He threw them to the ground in annoyance. The things on the table fell to the ground, making a loud noise. The people outside heard it, but they all looked down and pretended not to hear. If they went in now, they would only be courting death. Prime Minister Su. The eunuchs at the door bowed when they saw someone coming. They lowered their voices, afraid that the person inside would hear them. The person nodded slightly. What's wrong? Is His Majesty angry again? Of course. The eunuch guarding the door nodded and lowered his voice. Prime Minister Su, why don't you come back later? If you go in now, His Majesty will vent his anger on you. Prime Minister Su looked at the memorials in his hand and thought for a moment. This is a serious matter. I'd better go in now. Open the door. The eunuchs didn't dare to refute and ran to open the door. Prime Minister Su entered the hall and saw a mess. Greetings, Your Majesty. Prime Minister Su only took a glance before retracting his gaze and saluting. The man who was standing in the middle of the mess turned around abruptly. His eyes were cold, and the murderous aura on his body seemed to have materialized. The air seemed to have condensed into sharp blades, floating around him. With just a thought, the man over there would be pierced into his body. Qi Yuan's red lips slightly parted, each word carrying a biting cold killing intent. What is it? Prime Minister Su bowed even more. Your Majesty, our men discovered the whereabouts of King Luo of Northern Liang at the border. Qi Yuan didn't reply for a long time. The hall was deathly silent. After a long while he asked ambiguously, Chu Luo? Prime Minister Su repeated, yes, Queen Luo of Northern Liang, Chu Luo. Do it. Qi Yuan didn't hesitate this time. Get out. Prime Minister Su almost choked on his saliva. Your Majesty, this is not appropriate. He was a prince of Bailiang. How could he be beheaded just like that? Do you think they are the flowers and plants in your imperial garden? Qi Yuan's eyes narrowed, and his dark pupils seemed to be filled with frost. He enunciated his words clearly. I said do it. Don't you understand? Prime Minister Su. Prime Minister Su retreated from the hall. The eunuch outside asked with concern, Prime Minister Su, His Majesty didn't punish you, did he? Prime Minister Su shook his head. This is much more serious than punishment. Huh? The eunuch was confused. Prime Minister Su didn't explain and only asked, what happened today? Why is His Majesty in such a bad mood? The eunuch stretched out his hand and gestured 3. First, during the imperial court today, a minister and His Majesty had a conflict in the imperial court. Second, the Empress Dowager stuffed people into His Majesty's side again. Third, someone barged in here and ran away in the end. Prime Minister Su felt that this information was a little too much, and it took him a while to digest it. The second matter didn't need to be mentioned. It happened from time to time. The Empress Dowager's greatest wish was to see the little prince. Of course, this was only to outsiders. As for what the Empress Dowager was thinking, he couldn't say. But no matter what the motive was, that person didn't have any women at all. The Empress Dowager wanted him to marry an empress, but he turned around and married the woman the Empress Dowager liked to someone else. He guessed that if those women weren't useful to the family, he would have directly dragged them out and beheaded them. First, he didn't go to the imperial court today, so he didn't know. He guessed that the minister had already reported to the King of Hell. The third matter. Someone actually dared to barge into the palace and ran away in the end. No wonder the palace was under martial law today. Prime Minister Su's eyes flashed. He asked the eunuch for a few details and left leisurely. Shi Shang squatted on the roof of the imperial kitchen in the palace. Her nose was filled with the aroma of food. It wasn't that she wanted to squat here, but this was the best location in the vicinity. It wouldn't be easy to be discovered. Most importantly, she was really a little hungry. She would only have the energy to teach that idiot a lesson after she was full. Go down and get some food up here. Shi Shang patted the iron sword and ordered it to do something. Buzz. It's my turn to do something sneaky. Master, don't go overboard. Shi Shang stared at it. What do you mean sneaky? Did I ask you to sneak or touch a dog? Iron sword. Master, please don't take my words to heart. Are you going or not? Shi Shang squinted at it. Iron sword vibrated with a buzzing sound and scurried down from the side. Anyway, it had chopped down houses, dug up soil, and smashed eggs. It didn't care. It really didn't care. Iron sword came back quickly. It didn't dare to take too much. After all, it wasn't good behavior. However, it was distressed that its master was hungry. So it only took 2 steamed buns for Shi Shang. Shi Shang. Don't ask her why there were steamed buns in this era. Anyway, there were. Shi Shang silently nibbled on the steamed bun. Why was her view of swordsmanship so weird? Do you know that you can't survive in the apocalypse? Iron sword. Master, you're the one with weird views, okay? After finishing the steamed bun, Shi Shang squatted on the roof for a while. She waited until it was dark before sneaking back to Qi Yuan's palace. Probably because of the trouble she caused during the day, the palace was much more heavily guarded than before. Basically, there was an imperial guard every 3 steps, and there were more people patrolling back and forth. Sher Shang squatted in the grass and observed for a while before figuring out the pattern of their patrolling. There were still people going in and out of the palace. Sher Shang waited until it was late at night and the door to the palace was closed before she sneaked in. She used the invisibility charm to cheat her way in. So why are you observing their patrolling pattern? It has nothing to do with how you got in, okay? Sher Shang answered in her heart, because I'm bored. This is a very strong reason. The system has no words to refute it. Asterisk, this is a fake group. Little fairy, let me tell you, the monthly votes are 4,000 plus updates. Are you sure you don't want to vote? It's the weekend, Cherub who has votes, don't hesitate, favor me, and you'll be able to update Cherub. Can you speak normally? Little fairy, vote for the monthly votes. If you don't vote, I won't update. Cherub, you'd better not talk. Little fairy, what do you want me to do? Chapter 1189. There were only 2 lamps in the chamber, so it was a little dim. Sher Shang scanned his surroundings but didn't see anyone. Even if he couldn't see anyone, he could still feel the cold aura in the chamber. She approached the imperial bed. The curtains blocked the interior, but fortunately, the curtains were translucent, so she could still see that someone was inside. Sher Shang ground his teeth, rolled up his sleeves, and prepared to beat him up. Just as her hand touched the curtain, the door of the palace was suddenly pushed open. The dark palace was suddenly lit up. Imperial guards with weapons surrounded her. Sher Shang's mouth twitched. Very good. The person on the bed sat up. He was only wearing a loose inner robe, and his chest was faintly discernible as he moved. His expression was cold, and his eyes stared straight at Sher Shang through the thin veil. Prince Rong, why did you barge into my chambers in the middle of the night? Sher Shang answered honestly, I wanted to beat you up. The imperial guards around them sucked in a breath of cold air. This young man had guts. He actually wanted to beat His Majesty up. Wouldn't he be torn to pieces by His Majesty? If he could barge into the palace, he wouldn't be a coward. But where did Prince Rong come from? Qi Yuan's voice was even colder. How did I offend Prince Rong? His meaning was, you barged into I's chambers in the day, and I haven't even settled the score with you yet. How dare you come in the middle of the night to beat I up? You must be tired of living. Yep, the translation was made up by Sher Shang herself. In reality, Qi Yuan was only looking at her coldly. His gaze was as if he wanted to drag her out and behead her at any time. To be honest, Sher Shang was a little reluctant to accept such a terrifying Feng Ci. This darling can't train such a savage Feng Ci. Why don't we switch to another plane? Host, he can still be saved. Really? Don't casually switch planes. This is a serious game. Bah, it's not a game. Sure enough, Qi Yuan spoke. Drag her out and behead her. Sher Shang exploded. Hey! I am Prince Rong of Bailiang. Is it appropriate for you to behead me like this? How did this idiot know she was Prince Rong? And why was he waiting for her? How terrifying! The imperial guards suddenly realized that it was Prince Rong of Northern Liang. Qi Yuan accepted it without hesitation. Send him off. Sher Shang. No, I can't hold back the great desolate power in I's body. Come on. Draw your sword. Idiot. Sher Shang took out his iron sword. The imperial guards were all on high alert. Their hands holding their weapons began to sweat. His Majesty was right behind her. If she attacked His Majesty first, she would be finished. His Majesty doesn't know martial arts. He didn't even know any martial arts. Clearly, the imperial guards were overthinking things. Sher Shang attacked them first before quickly tossing these eyesores out of the door. She slammed the door shut and stuck a talisman on it, allowing the people outside to slam into the door. Sher Shang turned his head to look at the man on the bed. He was still sitting on the bed, and there was no change in his expression. If not for his moving eyes, Sher Shang would have thought that he was a statue. Qi Yuan took the jacket beside him and threw it on. When he got off the bed, he had already fastened his belt. Qi Yuan carefully sized up the young man in front of him. He was much better looking than the young masters he had met before. Most importantly, he had an aura about him that was both indifferent and powerful. This aura made him stand out from the others. Qi Yuan turned around and calmly walked towards the table not far away. Prince Rong, what is your purpose in visiting this prince at this time? Why don't you tell me? Shi Sheng followed behind him. I just want to beat you up and snatch you back. Qi Yuan paused and turned around. Snatch me back? What for? Raise me. What else can I do? Shi Sheng's expression was matter-of-fact. Although it was a little cruel, perhaps he would be fine after being raised? If not, then let's meet in the next plane. Qi Yuan had probably never heard such words before. Moreover, the other party was a man. A strange look flashed through his cold eyes, but it disappeared in a fleeting moment. He retracted his gaze and continued walking forward until he sat down behind the table. Prince Rong, do you think you can leave this place? Shi Sheng's eyebrows curved. Do you think I can or can't? That will depend on Prince Rong's ability. Qi Yuan reached out and turned the inkstone on the table. The clicking sound of the mechanism activating echoed throughout the bedchamber. Arrows with cold light were shot from 2 different directions. Shi Sheng stood still and waved his iron sword. The arrows seemed to hit an invisible barrier and bounced back, shooting into the walls on both sides. Shi Sheng's figure flashed as he rushed towards Qi Yuan. Countless silver needles shot towards him, but Shi Sheng's expression didn't change as he waved them away. He landed in front of Qi Yuan and quickly grabbed his hand. Qi Yuan's eyes widened slightly. Shi Sheng's lips curled into a sinister smile. He pulled Qi Yuan down from the chair and gave him a violent beating. Shi Sheng felt much better after beating him up. He held Qi Yuan's hand and sent spiritual energy into his body. The spiritual energy in this world wasn't bad. After just a few months, the spiritual energy in his body was still quite abundant. Spiritual energy flowed through his meridians. To be honest, it wasn't easy to control. If it flowed too quickly, it would hurt him, but if it flowed too slowly, it would cause the spiritual energy to stagnate. For those with spiritual energy, stagnation wasn't a problem, but for those without spiritual energy, it was dangerous. Shi Sheng sent her spiritual energy into his body, but didn't feel anything even after a long time. So, now that this method didn't work, did it have to be a kiss? Or was he not Feng Ci? Shi Sheng lowered his head and looked at the person he was pressing down on. The latter was looking at him with a look that said, I'm going to drag you out and chop you to pieces. This person, maybe, really, maybe, he wasn't Feng Ci? What are you looking at? Shi Sheng shook him off and stood up, tugging at his clothes. She wasn't confident and was afraid of being tricked by that little bitch system. She had to observe for a while before using that method to confirm her suspicions. Qi Yuan stared blankly as Shi Sheng left. As soon as she left, Qi Yuan immediately opened the door. Catch him for me. I don't want him alive. I said, don't be so heartless. Shi Sheng's voice rang out from the roof. Through the dark night, it carried a hint of coldness. You might regret it in the future. What the hell do you mean by don't want him alive? How infuriating. Qi Yuan's voice suddenly stopped. His eyes darkened, and he vented his anger on the Imperial Guards. What are you standing there for? If you can't catch him, chop him to pieces. The Imperial Guards. Should they catch him alive? Or not to capture him alive? Shi Sheng stepped on the roof and jumped to the other side. She was just in time to see Qi Yuan. She waved at him arrogantly. See you next time. Then she disappeared into the night. They heard that Qi Yuan had smashed the entire palace that night. In the end, the palace maids and eunuchs found that they couldn't enter his chambers. During the morning court the next day, a minister who hadn't woken up yet decided to go against Qi Yuan. Qi Yuan's anger from last night hadn't subsided, but this minister was unlucky enough to be dragged out and executed. When the court was dismissed, all the ministers were trembling. Chapter 1190. Sher Shang left the palace and found a place to stay. The entire city was searching for her, but she wasn't afraid. If she was found, she could just fight. The imperial guards were devastated. There was an emperor who would behead anyone in the palace and a fugitive who would beat people up. They couldn't defend the former and couldn't catch the latter. The imperial guards couldn't bear to live like this. Sher Shang was causing a ruckus outside while Qi Yuan was causing panic in the palace. The two of them were on par with each other when it came to stirring up trouble. During her time in the imperial city, Sher Shang had managed to find out some information about Qi Yuan. Qi Yuan was the most outstanding among the princes of Qi Yao and was brimming with talent. Because of his mild temper, he wasn't weak. Half of the courtiers supported him to be the crown prince. But after the incident in Shiqian, he changed completely. The details of the incident in Shiqian weren't clear to outsiders. They only knew that it was a big deal. After the incident, the mild prince became ruthless. Anyone who didn't stand on his side wouldn't have a good ending. When he ascended the throne, his temper became more violent. He would behead anyone who disagreed with him. Gradually, he became known as a tyrant. But according to Sher Shang's understanding, other than beheading the courtiers and people in the palace, Qi Yuan didn't impose any tyranny on the commoners. A tyrant was a tyrant. Even if he didn't do anything to the commoners, they were still afraid of him. Especially the commoners who lived in the palace. Their resistance could probably be written all over the city walls. What's wrong with them recently? They're almost stripped down to their underwear when they enter the city. How can they let us pass? A complaint sounded beside Sher Shang. Someone who knew the inside story immediately replied, "You just came back so you don't know. The Imperial Guards have been trying to catch someone recently, but they haven't been able to. I heard that the Imperial Guards were fooled a few times." Who's so powerful? That person was shocked. They even dared to fool the Imperial Guards. Are they tired of living? I have a brother who works there. He knows a bit of the inside story, but don't tell anyone that I'm the one who told you. Tell us, tell us. That person lowered his voice. I heard that an assassin sneaked in. They're trying to catch the assassin. Everyone was suddenly at a loss for words. After a while, someone said, "Assassinate who?" That person. Who else could it be other than him? If you ask me, based on the current situation, sooner or later, someone will. His words were covered by someone else, but even without him saying it, everyone understood what he meant. Just as they were discussing heatedly, a group of Imperial Guards rushed in and waved their hands domineeringly. Search. Before they could figure out what was going on, the young man sitting next to them suddenly made a move. The Imperial Guards acted as if they had discovered a new continent and shouted outside, "Here!" The gossipy crowd. What does it mean to be here? Don't tell them that the assassin was sitting right next to them? That's him. I saw him on the wanted poster in the city. The gossipy crowd who was hiding in the corner didn't forget to gossip. After dealing with the Imperial Guards, Sher Shang patted the broken counter like a bandit. The shopkeeper squatting below was so scared that he fell to the ground. I don't know anything. Don't kill me. Who wants to kill you? I can't be bothered to kill you. I raised my hand. The shopkeeper. Look at how fierce you are. Isn't it obvious that you want to kill me? Sher Shang rolled his eyes. They were the ones who broke the counter. Ask them to pay for it. What? Pay for it? The shopkeeper was dumbfounded. After Sher Shang left, not only was the shopkeeper dumbfounded, but even the gossipy crowd was dumbfounded. Why did this assassin's style seem a little strange? Not only was he surrounded by the Imperial Guards, but he also calmly reminded the shopkeeper to pay for it and asked the Imperial Guards to pay for it? Wasn't he looking down on the Imperial Guards too much? Although they felt that this assassin didn't want to live anymore, why did they feel inexplicably satisfied? In the past, these Imperial Guards thought that they were superior just because they were in the palace. They looked down on others. Now that someone was going to teach them a lesson, it felt pretty good. Thus, when the imperial guards didn't like Shi Shang, the people of the imperial city suddenly started to like him. How could they not admire him for being able to stay in the imperial city for so long without being beheaded? Young Master Nan, are you going out? I saw the imperial guards go that way just now. You should be careful. Shi Shang met a man the moment he went out. He pointed in a direction and reported to Shi Shang. After causing trouble for so many days, she didn't hide anything. Many people came to watch every time she fought. There was even a warrant for her arrest. There was probably no one in the imperial city who didn't know her. Shi Shang didn't really understand how these people's minds worked. Were they really Qi Yao's subjects? How could they help an assassin like her? There were even people who directly supported her to assassinate Qi Yuan. He really didn't understand these ancient people. Their thoughts were so scary. Weren't they afraid of losing their heads? Shi Shang nodded slightly and walked towards the market with a strange look on his face. Along the way, the people who saw her would greet her warmly. Host, what kind of scene is this? Shi Shang. I'm also a little confused. She's always been unlikable. Did she activate the charm of being a heartthrob? I might have entered a fake ancient era. But face, are you sure you didn't put the extras in the wrong set? Hee hee. Hashtag speaking of the best posture in the Imperial City, only its host is convinced. Hashtag Young Master Nan, Young Master Nan. A little girl rushed out from the crowd and handed over a handkerchief while panting. Young Master Nan, this is a gift from my young mistress. Shi Shang silently stared at the handkerchief that was exquisitely embroidered. I heard that in Qi Yao, giving a handkerchief meant that the girl liked you. Of course, this was a custom. It didn't mean that you had to do anything with the girl after receiving it. The people of Qi Yao were open-minded. But what was the meaning of asking a girl to accept a handkerchief from a girl? I'm not a lesbian. The little girl saw that Shi Shang didn't accept it and stuffed the handkerchief into his hands. Young Master Nan, young mistress said that if you don't want it, just throw it away. With that, the little girl ran away. Shi Shang, are you really not afraid of losing your heads? I'm a wanted criminal now, okay? How are you going to play like this? Can't you be more professional and serious? Shi Shang gripped the handkerchief and was extremely melancholy. She was probably the most badass wanted criminal in history. Shi Shang didn't dare to keep the handkerchief. It wouldn't be good if he implicated the girl. Shi Shang had always been more indulgent towards his brainless girl fans. But where should he throw this handkerchief? Shi Shang was still struggling with the handkerchief when a group of imperial guards appeared. They were much gentler than before. Your Highness Prince Rong, His Majesty requests your presence. When the imperial guards appeared, the crowd around Shi Shang retreated. At this moment, there was no one in sight. It was very empty. Shi Shang blinked. Why does he want to see this prince? Isn't he looking forward to beheading this prince? Asterisk, I can't wait for you to vote. Sincerely, sincerely, heart sign. Have a good weekend. Chapter 1191. The Imperial Guards blushed with shame. His Majesty hadn't been able to execute them, had he? Do you know how hard they've been living in the palace recently? It's all because of you. I'm not going. Want to execute I? Am I stupid? Shi Shang rejected mercilessly. The Imperial Guards were in a difficult position. His Majesty only said to bring him back, but he didn't say whether he wanted him dead or alive. But they couldn't beat him even if they made a move. As a prince, why didn't you enjoy your life in Bailiang? Why did you come to Qi to cause trouble? Wait, it seemed like Prince Rong came to Qi to negotiate, but where was his negotiation team after so many days? Just as the Imperial Guards were feeling conflicted, Shi Shang had already left, causing the girls on the next street to scream. The Imperial Guards sighed in their hearts. His Majesty had met his match. After listening to the Imperial Guard's report, Qi Yuan said expressionlessly, "Drag him out and execute him." Your Majesty. Prime Minister Su, who was standing at the side, hurriedly said, "This has nothing to do with them. Why are you taking out your anger on them?" Qi Yuan looked up slightly. You want to come along too? Prime Minister Su. He glanced at the imperial guards kneeling on the ground. Even I can't save you. After that person was brought out, Qi Yuan asked coldly, "Who asked Prince Rong to come?" It was old General Shan. Didn't His Majesty know about this? Qi Yuan suddenly grabbed the booklet on the table and threw it at Prime Minister Su. I told you to execute him. What are you doing? Prime Minister Su was furious, but he couldn't flare up. Your Highness, the Shan family has always held military power. If you really execute him, the Shan family will probably rebel. Qi Yuan was so angry that he smashed a few more booklets and said fiercely, "He asked for someone to get rid of him for me. If he can't, I'll get rid of him." Yes. Old General Shan was going to be unlucky. Shi Shang was squatting on top of a restaurant, looking down at Lu Ziyan, Chu Luo, and the others. They were all in disguise. Even though the entire city was under martial law, they still managed to enter. That was quite impressive. Shi Shang was about to do something to improve the male and female lead's relationship. She suddenly realized that someone was squatting beside her. His posture was exactly the same as hers. She looked quite delicate and pretty, just a little tanned, but she was tall and slender. She was a martial artist. F***CK. When did this person come? Why didn't she notice it? This doesn't make sense. But face, there's a bug. No, he's famous for his lightness skills. You just wanted to kill the male and female protagonists, but he didn't carry any murderous aura. It's normal that you didn't notice it. This is not a bug. The system swiftly explained and then continued to play dead. Miss Nanji. The other party called her by her full name seriously, and even added the word Miss. Shi Shang. She didn't know this person. All of a sudden, the woman lunged forward and hugged Shi Shang's leg. She cried bitterly, "Madam, please let me live. Don't torment yourself here. Go do what you need to do. Go far away and live a carefree life. Do whatever you want as long as you don't stay here." Shi Shang. He was crazy. Master Sima said that he would only get you out of northern Liang. He didn't say that you would torment me. Madam, can you please be merciful? Shi Shang was still confused. This crazy woman had a lot of information. How did the Sima family get involved? Miss Nanji, my Dan family has only one son for 3 generations. If your Majesty really kills me, I will be the sinner of the Dan family. I can't bear this accusation. How can I face my ancestors in the future? Wait a minute, explain yourself. Do you want to be the sinner of the Dan family? Miss Nanji, you are still so young. You can do anything, but please don't do something so immoral. The man didn't listen to Shi Shang and continued to roar. He even hugged Shi Shang's leg desperately and cried uncontrollably. Shi Shang looked at the sky silently. I might have really entered a fake ancient era. Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. What's that sound? The man suddenly stopped crying and looked up at Shi Shang. Shi Shang smiled and then raged. It's going to collapse, King retard. Just as Shi Shang finished speaking, the roof suddenly began to cave in. Shi Shang reacted quickly and jumped to the side, landing on the tea shed that had been propped up below. She slid down and landed on the ground. Shi Shang supported himself on the stool beside him and flipped to the side, maintaining his handsome image. Shi Shang steadied himself and looked up to see Lu Ziyan and the others opposite him. Shi Shang. F***CK. 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 Plot Lord, that little B***TCH, is causing trouble again. Bam. When both parties were looking at each other affectionately, something fell from the middle and hit the tea shed. The tea shed couldn't bear the weight and fell down with a crash. The culprit came out from under the tea shed as if nothing had happened. He scanned his surroundings and saw that there were so many people watching. He coughed, took out silver from his waist, and placed it in the hands of the owner of the tea shed. When Dan Ming turned around, he saw Chu Luo standing outside the tea shed. He was slightly stunned. Perhaps because Chu Luo had disguised herself, he felt that she looked a little familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen her before. Chu Luo pulled Lu Ziyan back and gestured for her not to act rashly. This Dan Ming was a fool. On the battlefield, he only knew how to charge around recklessly. However, his martial arts were very powerful. In a head-on confrontation, it was uncertain who would win. Dan Ming probably didn't recognize her. He turned to look at Shi Shang and naturally changed the Miss Nanji he was referring to Prince Rong. With a serious expression, he no longer had that unprincipled image from before. Prince Rong, I have something to tell you. Do I know you? Shi Shang's face was cold. Was this person schizophrenic? Last time, a few people suddenly rushed out and said that they were sent by Lord Sima. Now, another person suddenly appeared and said that it was related to Lord Sima. What exactly did that cheap grandfather of hers, whom she had never met before, do behind her back? He could even order people from Qiyao around. Impressive. Such an impressive person was killed by the female lead in the end. How aggrieving. Prince Rong. Shi Shang suddenly walked past him and towards Chu Luo. The people on the other side looked at her nervously. Especially Chu Luo. Her eyes were filled with warning, as if he would attack her on the spot if she dared to spout nonsense. Lu Ziyan's expression was a little complicated. She probably hadn't given up on trying to instigate her. However, what Shi Shang had done last time made her feel that Shi Shang was very dangerous. That was why she had such complicated feelings. Shi Shang smiled. Prince Luo, Miss Lu, you're a little slow. Her voice wasn't soft. It was obvious that she was deliberately exposing their identities. Prince Luo. Dan Ming glanced at Chu Luo. At this moment, Chu Luo looked like an uncle from the pugilistic world. She had a beard and had applied something on her face, making her look a little sallow. Dan Ming had fought with Chu Luo on the battlefield before and had some understanding of her. After Shi Shang pointed out Chu Luo's identity, Dan Ming observed her for a while and naturally recognized her. Dan Ming said in realization, "So it's Prince Luo. Why are you dressed like this? Is this outfit popular in Northern Liang now? Ha ha ha, you Northern Liang people really know how to dress up." Who couldn't tell the sarcasm in his tone? Chapter 1192. Chu Luo and the others' identities were exposed by Shi Shang. As a general, Dan Ming quickly arranged accommodations for them. Of course, during this period, Chu Luo was often ridiculed by Dan Ming. Perhaps it was because there was a saying that when one was under someone else's roof, one had to lower one's head, or perhaps Chu Luo had other motives, but she didn't clash with Dan Ming head-on. She only mocked him indirectly. The battle between the two sides was silent. Shi Shang followed behind them without saying a word. He followed them like a ghost. Lu Ziyan felt uncomfortable, but she couldn't say anything in front of people from other countries. Then rest well, Prince Luo. I'll tell His Majesty tomorrow that the Northern Liang envoys have arrived. After mocking them, Dan Ming was in a good mood and didn't make things difficult for them. He left the post house and saw Shi Shang standing at the door. He immediately rushed up and asked strangely, "Why are you so black-hearted? Are you still Northern Liang's Prince Rong after exposing their identities?" In the past, Dan Ming was a little silly and sweet, but ever since the emperor changed, he had been hovering around beheading people every day. If he hadn't been smarter, he would have been beheaded long ago. They make me uncomfortable, so of course I have to make them uncomfortable. She didn't want to do anything to them at first, but that little B*TCH, Mr. Plot, kept pushing them to her. Dan Ming. He had better send this lady away quickly. Shi Shang looked at Dan Ming. "Tell me, Sima, what happened to my grandfather?" Shi Shang learned the whole story from Dan Ming. When Dan Ming's grandfather and Lord Sima were in middle school, they had once roamed the pugilistic world together and tried to dominate the pugilistic world. Of course, they didn't succeed in the end, but the two of them had a life-and-death relationship. When Lord Sima realized that the emperor was making a move against the Sima family, he started to contact Dan Ming's grandfather. No matter what happened between him and the emperor, he hoped to protect Prince Rong. It was Dan Ming's grandfather who had asked Shi Shang to go to Qi Yao. He had done this secretly, and Qi Yuan didn't know about it. Later on, when he found out that the matter had been decided, Qi Yuan almost killed him, but he was stopped by the other courtiers. It was strange. Qi Yuan was very angry back then. When he was angry, no one's words were effective. However, that time, he didn't really drag him out and beheaded him. Originally, Shi Shang would have been taken away when they left Red Planet's borders to create the illusion that she was dead, and then she would live on as a woman. If nothing happened to the Sima clan, she would be brought back. If something happened, the things that Master Sima had prepared for her would be enough for her to live a peaceful life. The plan was good, but Shi Shang didn't follow the script. In fact, it had gone completely awry. What happened later was even more chaotic, leading to the current situation. Shi Shang thought for a while. In the plot, the contact between Master Sima and Dan Ming's grandfather became evidence of his treason. So he was really wronged? With the main character as the main character, the others would either skim over it or be completely annihilated. Who would go and describe the supporting characters in such detail? Therefore, in places where the protagonist's perspective could not reach, who knew if the person you thought was a bad guy was really a bad guy? Are the good people you think they are really good people? Great Aunt, if you don't leave this place, grandfather and I will be buried with you. Are Lord Sima's men still with you? Hurry and leave with them. Dan Ming begged with his eyes. His Majesty already didn't like the Dan family. If he was given another chance, His Majesty would definitely kill them without mercy. Why didn't he like them? Dan Ming didn't know either. Anyway, His Majesty didn't like many people. No, he didn't like anyone. If he didn't like them, he would kill them. Who asked him to be the emperor? Shi Shang pondered for a moment. I'll snatch someone and leave. Who cared if he was a good person or not? He would just take him back and observe him. Dan Ming was stunned. Who are you going to snatch? The entire imperial city was in a mess because of you, and you still want to snatch someone? Why did he have a bad feeling about this? Shi Shang's eyes curved and he left with an unfathomable expression. Dan Ming. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but why did he suddenly feel cold? Before leaving, he had to do something for the male and female leads to leave a memento. Shi Shang threatened the system and got a detailed part of the plot. According to the plot, Lu Ziyan came to Qi Yao this time to find someone. That person had a medicine that could cure the male lead. That's right, the male lead was sick, and only the female lead could cure him. That was the plan. Shi Shang had the plot, so it wasn't difficult to find the person. But the other party had a strange temper. He said that the medicine was only for the fated person, and she wasn't the fated person. This person was specially prepared for the female lead. Of course, she wasn't the fated person. It didn't matter if she wasn't the fated person, they could use violence. Shi Shang destroyed half of his storage. He was really heartbroken, so he handed the medicine to her with trepidation. To deal with this kind of person, they had to go for the things that he cared about. Shi Shang destroyed the medicine after getting it. The plot said that there was only one stock of this thing, but it was the most important medicine. Without it, the male lead would never be able to recover. The plot, that little b asterisk tch, better not create a substitute for her. Thinking about it, it was possible. After all, the male and female lead couldn't die so quickly. Shi Shang returned. The person was tidying up the house. When he saw her, he was so frightened that he fell into a pile of herbs. You! What else do you want? Shi Shang stepped on the overturned stool and put his hands on his knees. He looked like a bandit. Let me ask you, what are the antidotes for the 7-star passionless poison? 7. 7-star passionless poison? The person's face turned pale. Wasn't this thing extinct a long time ago? Why was she asking about this? Although the thing that Shi Shang took away was a medicine, it had other uses and was very precious. Many people wanted it, so he didn't think that it was the 7-star passionless poison. But now... You don't know? Huh? Shi Shang's expression was fierce. The originally good-looking young man suddenly became fierce. His eyes were filled with a murderous glint. It was scary to look at. He thought about what happened before and quickly said, You, the thing that you destroyed was the medicine. I know. What I'm asking is there any other way? It's gone. This person was very puzzled. If he was afflicted with the 7 stars of ruthlessness, why would he destroy the catalyst? What was the meaning of destroying the catalyst and then asking if there was any other way? Really? Shi Shang narrowed his eyes. The cold gleam of the iron sword flashed in his eyes, and a chill spread throughout his body. He stuttered, There seems to be another way. Speak. You should have heard of young Master Clear Dust's name. He can cure the 7-star passionless poison. As for how to cure it, I don't know. I really don't know. This is what I heard from my master. He said that the cultivation technique of young Master Jingchen's sect is very special. It can cure the 7-star passionless poison. Pure dust. The second male lead had a tragic ending? Fuck. Did she have to kill the second male lead first? Why is it that the host's first thought is always to kill, and not other gentle methods? What should I do if my host explodes the shed? Waiting online, very urgent #*# today's Phoenix would flavored ticket #everyone. Have a good weekend. Vote for the monthly votes. 4,000 plus chapters. 4,000 plus chapters. 4,000, 4,000, 4,000, 4,000. Go, Pikachu. Something seems wrong. Go, Cherub. Chapter 1193. Your Majesty, the Luo King is already here. Do we still need to make a move? Qi Yuan's expression was cold, his tone icy. What's the point of keeping you all? The people below trembled. Were they just there to be cut down? Your Majesty, the Luo King is still a king with a different surname. He has a lot of support in Bailiang. If we rashly attack him, it won't do us any good. Prime Minister Su tried to persuade him as usual. Qi Yuan didn't want to listen. He waved his hand. Get out. Prime Minister Su and the others looked at each other. Their Majesty was hard to please. Qi Yuan sat on the dragon throne, staring at the ground with a gloomy expression. A pair of boots suddenly appeared in his line of sight. He frowned. I told you to get out. Don't you understand? Oh, Your Majesty, you dare to tell this prince to get out. Shi Shang snorted. If you want this prince to get out, Your Majesty needs to have the ability to do so. This was what Qi Yuan had said before. Although the words were different, the meaning was the same. Qi Yuan's gaze shifted to Shi Shang's face. He frowned. What are you doing here again? This man was baffling. He didn't know what he wanted to do. He didn't feel any malice towards him, but he also didn't feel any kindness. He kept all his emotions in check. What he showed was only what he wanted you to see. Qi Yuan felt an inexplicable sense of danger. But there was also an indescribable feeling in the depths of his heart. It was like an adventurer who knew that the other side was a cliff, but still wanted to go there. Shi Shang tilted his head, his smile widening. I'm here. To take you away. Qi Yuan stared at him expressionlessly for a few seconds, then suddenly opened his mouth. Men. Shi Shang interrupted him. Scream all you want. No one will come to save you even if you scream yourself hoarse. Coming from Shi Shang's mouth, there was no sense of dissonance at all when she said this. Qi Yuan remembered what happened in his own palace. He quickly gave up the urge to call for people to chop her up. He asked, "Prince Rong came to Qi Yao for us?" It was strange for a man to come for her. Shi Shang's expression was arrogant. Otherwise, what do you think Qi Yao has that is worth this prince's visit? Qi Yuan paused for a moment before slowly saying, 10,000 miles of mountains and rivers. Shi Shang sneered, "Do you think Qi Yao is a mountain of gold and silver? Do I have nothing better to do?" Her eyes were too calm. There was no pursuit of power or greed for money. She was arrogant, but she did not look down on others. She only looked at the world with a calm indifference. At such a young age, it was as if he had experienced the vicissitudes of life and seen through everything. What a strange person. Qi Yuan calmed himself down. "Prince Rong, don't you think your actions are strange?" "Where? Why are you taking me away?" "I've taken a fancy to you. What else could it be?" Prince Rong has taken a fancy to a man. What's the problem? Is there a rule that says you can't fall for a man? Qi Yuan, yin and yang were polar opposites. Since ancient times, men and women had been assigned to each other. How could anyone fall in love with a man? "This prince doesn't want to talk nonsense with you. Are you coming with me, or do you want me to do it myself?" Shi Shang waved his hand impatiently. "This prince won't go easy on you. If you don't want to suffer, then come with me obediently." Qi Yuan raised his voice. "I am the ruler of a country. How can I leave with you?" Shi Shang couldn't help but roll his eyes. "Stop wasting time. Just snatch it back." She walked towards Qi Yuan. Qi Yuan didn't have martial arts and couldn't call for help. When he saw her approach, his expression changed. Shi Shang slammed his palm on the table and glared fiercely. "You want this 10,000 miles of mountains and rivers? No problem. This prince will give it to you with both hands in the future. But for now, you have to listen to me." "You?" Shi Shang's eyebrows curved as he raised his hand to hit Qi Yuan. Qi Yuan dodged, but Shi Shang pulled him over and chopped his neck. In the end, Qi Yuan only saw her smiling face that seemed to harbor evil intentions. At night, the people outside realized that Qi Yuan hadn't come out yet. They were a little nervous, but afraid that something might have happened, they still went in to take a look. They found that there was no one inside. The emperor was missing. This matter spread quickly. Prime Minister Su and Dan Ming rushed to the palace immediately. Prime Minister Su asked the eunuchs kneeling in a row, "Have you searched everywhere in the palace?" "We've searched everywhere. There's no trace of His Majesty." The eunuchs wanted to cry but had no tears. Prime Minister Su didn't know if it was out of anger or something else. The usually gentle Prime Minister was actually angry. "Didn't His Majesty notice that you were guarding outside the door?" The eunuchs didn't dare to speak. Prime Minister Su rubbed his forehead. "His Majesty wasn't wrong to want to behead all of you." Dan Ming came out with a letter and handed it to Prime Minister Su. Prince Rong took it away. Prime Minister Su looked at Dan Ming strangely, then his gaze fell on the letter. "I borrowed it for His Majesty's use. When I return it depends on my mood. If you want to rebel, hurry up. Who knows when I'll bring him back. Don't worry, I won't do anything to him. I'll provide him with good food and drink. Prince Rong." Dan Ming was also speechless. She said she wanted to kidnap someone before leaving. Who knew that the person she wanted to kidnap was their emperor? Her guts were simply out of this world. Prime Minister Su read the letter over and over again 3 times. His eyes darkened as he shouted angrily, "Send someone after her." When Qi Yuan woke up, he found himself in a carriage. He sat up and rubbed his neck, looking around with a sullen expression. There was no one. He was still wearing his imperial robe and was covered with a thick quilt. It was very warm. Did he really bring him out? Qi Yuan couldn't tell if he was angry or surprised. There were so many people in the palace. How was he brought out? Were those people all useless? "No, I'll kill them when I get back." Qi Yuan lifted the curtain beside him and looked outside. The carriage stopped in the middle of a forest. It was bare and devoid of any greenery. It was winter. How long had he been unconscious for? The cold wind hit the carriage and blew on his face. It was bone-chilling. "You're awake." A face suddenly popped up beside him, inches away from him. He could clearly see the long eyelashes and jade-like skin. A delicate fragrance was carried over by the cold wind, refreshing his heart. The young man was really good-looking. He was like the bright moon in the dark night, shining brightly with a cold haze. He was unattainable. Qi Yuan abruptly shrank back, putting some distance between him and Shi Shang. He glared at him with an ugly expression. Shi Shang walked to the front and jumped into the carriage. "Are you hungry?" Qi Yuan didn't want to talk to his kidnapper, so he responded with a cold gaze. Shi Shang didn't care. He put the thing that was still steaming in his hand aside. "We're already out of the border, so you'd better not think about running away. Even if you do, this prince can still catch you." He paused, then raised his head and smiled. "We're in the middle of nowhere. You don't have the time. This prince doesn't recommend you run." Qi Yuan took a deep breath, but all he inhaled was cold air. It chilled him from the throat to the tip of his heart. Chapter 1194. Qi Yuan pushed Shi Shang aside and got off the carriage. He thought that the person behind him would pull him, but she didn't. She just sat outside the carriage and watched him leave. It was really cold outside and he wasn't wearing thick clothes. The cold wind drilled into his neck and his body turned cold in the blink of an eye. The distance between them grew further and further. Qi Yuan didn't know how long he had been walking. His whole body was frozen, but there was no one around and he didn't know where he was. "Your Majesty." A figure suddenly appeared beside him and said respectfully, "His Highness said that if you are tired, you can go back at any time." In his dreams, no matter what his motive was, he wasn't going back. He was going to go back and send troops to destroy northern Liang. That person didn't say much and disappeared. Qi Yuan looked in the direction he disappeared. There was a cloak and some food on the ground. Qi Yuan's expression was ugly. He didn't touch those things and continued walking. The shadow guards behind Qi Yuan were dumbfounded. Ever since they followed His Highness, they had opened the door to a new world. Shadow Guard A asked, "Why do you think His Highness kidnapped the Qi Yao Emperor?" This was the Emperor of the Crimson Glory Empire. His Highness had tied him up just like that and even brought him back to northern Liang. "Capture the leader first." Shadow Guard B guessed. If he kidnapped the Qi Yao Emperor first, Qi Yao would be in chaos and wouldn't have time to torment northern Liang. And His Highness was really smart. Shadow Guard A retorted, "His Highness didn't treat him like a captive." Shadow Guard B was stunned. "Then what does His Highness want to do?" Shadow Guard A shook his head. How would he know what His Highness was thinking? Anyway, they had been very confused recently and couldn't figure it out. They didn't want to think about it and focused on following the person in front. Why did he stop? Should we go up and take a look? The two shadow guards hesitated but didn't go up. Qi Yuan only stopped for a while before continuing to walk forward. However, his body was swaying and his legs seemed to be weak. Did he sprain his ankle? Quickly go and tell His Highness. Shadow Guard A pushed Shadow Guard B. Shi Shang drove the carriage to catch up with Qi Yuan. Shi Shang handed the carriage to the shadow guards and jumped down. He walked to his side. "Get in." Qi Yuan ignored her and continued to walk forward with a sullen face. "It's fine if you're angry with me, but it's meaningless if you're angry with your feet. You'll end up with a chronic illness in the future, and it'll be so ugly when you walk." Scram! Shi Shang's face darkened. He turned around and stood in front of Qi Yuan. The murderous intent in Qi Yuan's eyes surged, and the air seemed to freeze. "What are you looking at? Do you think you can kill me?" King retard, if it weren't for you. Shi Shang paused, took a deep breath, and carried Qi Yuan to the carriage. The murderous intent in Qi Yuan's eyes suddenly became chaotic, as though he had been disrupted. He gritted his teeth and glared at Shi Sheng. "Let go of me." Suddenly being carried in a princess hug by a man, Qi Yuan was really angry. That gaze of his probably wanted to chop Shi Sheng countless times. Shi Sheng ignored his gaze, grabbed his flailing hands, and threw him into the carriage. With a cold expression, he said, "I'll let you go." Qi Yuan was a little dizzy from the fall. By the time he sat up, Shi Sheng was already in the car. The carriage swayed as it started to move. The carriage was very warm. He didn't know what was in it, but the cold in his body was slowly being withdrawn. He felt his limbs warming up. Shi Sheng looked at him, and he looked back at Shi Sheng. Neither of them spoke. After a long time, Shi Sheng finally moved. He sat on the floor of the carriage, lifted the hem of Qi Yuan's clothes, and took off his boots. Qi Yuan wanted to pull his feet back, but Shi Sheng was too strong. He couldn't. He settled for the next best thing. "Prince Rong, why don't you state your conditions?" Shi Sheng frowned as he looked at Qi Yuan's feet. There was a large swollen area around his ankle. Because of the cold, it was green and purple. When he heard Qi Yuan's words, he raised his head slightly. "You're in this prince's hands. Why should this prince state conditions? Retard. Was his brain frozen?" Qi Yuan was speechless. He actually had no retort. Shi Sheng asked for some medicine from the system and applied it on Qi Yuan's ankle. The medicine was a little strong. Qi Yuan's body spasmed. Shi Sheng indifferently said, "Endure it for a while. It'll be better soon." He didn't even bandage it. He directly took off his other shoe. The carriage was very warm, so it didn't feel cold. Qi Yuan retracted his foot and covered it with his clothes. "What do I have that Prince Rong wants?" Qi Yuan was very irritated, not knowing Shi Sheng's motive. "What do you want?" Shi Sheng looked at him as if he was an idiot. "Didn't this prince say it before? It's all for you. There's no other motive." Qi Yuan blurted out, "You like men?" Shi Sheng looked at him strangely, but didn't answer. Qi Yuan abruptly blurted out. His tone was a little cold, but he didn't mean anything else. "Prince Rong's hobbies are really unique." Shi Sheng ignored him and took out a book to read. Qi Yuan sat next to him. His ears were filled with the sound of the carriage wheels grinding on the ground. His body swayed along with the carriage. Qi Yuan wasn't a talkative person. Since Shi Sheng didn't say anything, he could only remain silent with a cold expression. Rumble. An awkward sound came from inside the carriage. Shi Sheng shifted his gaze from the book to Qi Yuan. Hungry. Perhaps because he was too angry just now, Qi Yuan didn't feel anything. Now that it was quiet, Qi Yuan felt that he was so hungry that he didn't have any strength left. He didn't even know how long it had been since he last ate. But when he saw Shi Sheng's face, Qi Yuan couldn't help but be stubborn. "I'm not hungry." "Oh." Shi Sheng lowered his head and continued reading. Qi Yuan. Rumble. Qi Yuan's expression was unsightly as he clutched his stomach, feeling a little embarrassed. Shi Sheng didn't seem to hear him. He quietly flipped through the book. After flipping through 2 pages, he suddenly said, "Stop the carriage." Shi Sheng put down the book. "Don't run. This prince doesn't have that much time to follow you." Qi Yuan didn't plan to run either. His feet couldn't move at all. When Shi Sheng got off the carriage, Qi Yuan glanced at the books he had placed beside the carriage and bent over. The first 2 books were quite serious. They were records of the grand historian. But the last 2 books were different. Just by looking at the cover, he could tell that they weren't serious books. Qi Yuan threw the book back and leaned back to rest. He had to think about how to go back. He couldn't count on Qi Yao's people. Those people probably couldn't wait for him to not go back. But how could he let them do as they wished? "Your Highness!" A loud shout pulled Qi Yuan back from his thoughts. He opened his eyes abruptly and lifted the curtain to look outside. A secret guard stood beside the carriage, looking anxiously into the depths of the forest. Faint sounds of fighting could be heard from there. A figure swept past from the side. "Look after His Majesty. I'll go help His Highness." But just as he rushed out, the other secret guards came back. "His Highness wants us to take His Majesty and retreat first." "But His Highness—" The secret guard waved his hand. "Retreat." Qi Yuan lowered the curtain. A strange light flashed in his cold eyes. He lowered his eyes, his long eyelashes hiding his emotions. Begging for monthly votes. Chapter 1195. The carriage was moving at a fast speed, and the bumps were even more severe. Qi Yuan hadn't felt this kind of fleeing for his life in a long time. He clenched his fists, trying his best to ignore the face that popped up in his mind. Qi Yuan loosened his grip. He was so powerful. Did he need to worry? No, why would he need to worry about someone who kidnapped him? He wasn't worried. Definitely not. The carriage slowed down, and the door was opened. Shadow Guard A stood outside. "Your Majesty, we will wait for your Highness here. There are snacks for you to fill your stomach first." Shadow Guard A placed the snacks wrapped in oil paper into the carriage and closed the door. Qi Yuan didn't even have time to say a word. Outside the carriage, Shadow Guard A walked a little further away, patting his chest as he spoke to the Shadow Guard beside him. "Her Highness seems to be in a bad mood recently. She scared me to death just now. I almost thought she was going to kill me too. Her Highness is getting more and more powerful." Shadow Guard B sighed. Indeed. Shadow Guard A nodded. "The people who chased us from the Crimson Glory Empire were from the Crimson Glory Empire." "Who are the people chasing us now?" "They look like people from the martial arts world." Shadow Guard B lowered his voice. "We'll talk about it when Her Highness returns." Shi Shang returned with 4 rabbits. The Shadow Guard's expressions could only be described with one word: embarrassment. "Your Highness, you're still in the mood to hunt rabbits after killing people?" Shi Shang handed the rabbits to Shadow Guard A and prepared to board the carriage. Shadow Guard A hurriedly stopped her. "Your Highness, who were those people just now?" Shi Shang threw something over. Shadow Guard A caught it and looked down. It was a token. Shadow Guard A was shocked. "This is from the palace? How did the people from the palace find out about their whereabouts so quickly?" Shi Shang didn't answer and turned to board the carriage. Qi Yuan glanced at her coldly. He noticed that she had changed her clothes, from blue to black. Her face was even more dazzling, and her every movement seemed to exude a sense of nobility. Who knew how many girls would fall for such a person? Qi Yuan felt that he was paying too much attention to her and forced himself to look away. "Prince Rong has many enemies." "It's all right. This was nothing. When I was powerful, I was the enemy of everyone." Qi Yuan could tell that she wasn't being modest. Instead, he felt a bit regretful. Did she think that she had too few enemies? Was there something wrong with her? "Aren't you hungry? Why aren't you eating?" Shi Shang glanced at the untouched desserts. Qi Yuan coldly said, "I'm afraid it's poisonous." Shi Shang was amused. "How could I use such a method to poison someone?" "You're looking down on me." Qi Yuan glanced at her, his thin lips moving slightly. "Then how will Prince Rong poison her?" Shi Shang answered matter-of-factly, "Just force it down his throat." Qi Yuan, "Such a violent method, it would be better to poison the snacks." Shi Shang added, "But I don't use poison. It's boring." Since it was so troublesome to poison him, it would be much easier to just use a sword. Qi Yuan subconsciously asked, "What does Prince Rong think is interesting?" Shi Shang looked at Qi Yuan and smirked. "Just kill them. What's the point of keeping them alive?" Qi Yuan replied coldly, "What if I can't kill him?" "Then make things difficult for them. For example, the male and female leads. If this prince is uncomfortable, then I have to make others feel even more uncomfortable. So how did I make Prince Rong feel uncomfortable?" "Why do you have to make me feel uncomfortable?" Shi Sheng raised his eyebrows. How did you make me feel uncomfortable? The first time we met, you wanted to chop me up and dismember me. The second time we met, you used a trap to deal with me. The third time, he didn't seem to have time to do anything. So be it. Qi Yuan's expression was cold. A stranger appeared in Prince Rong's room. Do you think he would invite him to drink tea and chat? Shi Sheng. Seems like there's nothing wrong with that. To him, she was just a stranger. Fine, I'll let you be for now. Your Highness, the rabbit is ready. Shadow Guard A's voice sounded from outside the carriage. Shi Sheng opened the carriage door. The aroma of roasted rabbit meat immediately wafted in, and Qi Yuan saw it. Shadow Guard A brought 2 rabbit legs. Shi Sheng gave one to Qi Yuan. Qi Yuan didn't take it. Shi Sheng coldly snorted. I won't bury you if you starve to death. Qi Yuan. With this attitude, those who didn't know better would think that he was her enemy. Qi Yuan clenched his teeth and took the rabbit leg from Shi Sheng. He didn't want to make things difficult for his stomach. However, looking at the rabbit leg in front of him, Qi Yuan didn't know how to eat it. He had been taught all kinds of etiquette since he was a child. Even during his most destitute period, he had never eaten like this. Qi Yuan looked at Shi Sheng, who was gnawing on the rabbit leg. His table manners weren't ugly, but eating like this definitely didn't look good. He could only say that it wasn't disgusting. Only the main character would be able to chew on a rabbit's leg in such a beautiful manner. Qi Yuan frowned. Do you have a knife? Shi Sheng lifted his eyelids and glanced at him, as if asking him what he wanted. Qi Yuan looked at the rabbit leg in his hand. Shi Sheng rolled his eyes. You're too nosy. She took out a clean dagger from her space and handed it to him before continuing to gnaw on her rabbit leg. Qi Yuan looked at the dagger in his hand and glanced at her neck from the corner of his eye. He was very close to her. If he was fast enough, he could subdue her. As this thought flashed past his mind, he tightened his grip on the dagger. After a while, he released it and began to cut the meat from the rabbit leg. Shi Sheng lowered his eyes to hide the emotions that were surging in them. The two of them ate quietly. Shi Sheng finished his food quickly. She got off the carriage to wash her hands and stood outside for a while before getting back into the carriage. She threw a handkerchief in front of Qi Yuan. Wipe your hands. We have to travel through the night. If you're not feeling well, bear with it. Qi Yuan. Sure enough, the moment he cleaned himself up, the carriage started moving at almost the same speed as before. She said that they were traveling through the night, and they really were traveling through the night. They didn't stop except for when they were eating. Sometimes, they even encountered people who wanted to kill them. Every time, it was Shi Sheng who did it, but he almost never saw them. He only saw them once. It was raining that day. Perhaps the sound of the rain covered their tracks. By the time Shi Sheng discovered them, they were already near the carriage. In his palace, she only knocked people unconscious and didn't take their lives. But here, every move was fatal. She was like a demon that harvested lives. She was strange and indifferent. It was as if she didn't kill people, as if they were no different from the flowers and plants around them. There was a strong murderous aura around her. It was the kind of aura that only people who had experienced killing would have. Even though Qi Yuan had killed many people, he was still shocked at that time. But when she returned, that feeling disappeared. It was as if he was imagining things. The Prince Rong he knew shouldn't be like this. Asterisk, this is a fake group. Little Fairy, I want to do a daily routine. Cherub, who's Chong? Little Fairy, why are your thoughts so dirty? Cherub, shy emoji, it's all because you taught me well. Little Fairy, I'm not a scapegoat. I didn't do anything. My daily routine is to vote. Remember. Chapter 1196. As they hurried along, Qi Yuan's expression was unsightly. When he saw the northern Liang imperial city, Qi Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. They had finally arrived. Your Highness, the city has been sealed. Shadow Guard B had gone to investigate and came back to report. Shi Shang leaned against the window, his gaze sweeping past the city gates. What's the situation in the city? I don't know yet. We have to contact them to know. Shadow God B's tone was heavy. Sealing the city was not a small matter. Something big must have happened in the city. Go and contact them. Shadow Guard B nodded and left to contact the people inside. However, he did not get any response even after contacting all the people he could contact. In the end, he used an uncommon method to get the news. Shadow Guard B came back trembling in fear. With great difficulty, he said, Your Highness, the Sima family will be executed at noon. Noon was fast approaching. Prince Rong's situation is not good. Qi Yuan sat at the back and looked at Shi Shang calmly. Why don't you let me go back? I might be able to help you take revenge. Shi Shang ignored the crazy Qi Yuan and jumped off the carriage. He ordered the others, Take him and follow me. Your Highness. What do you want to do? Shi Shang looked at the sky and said faintly, I want Northern Liang to change its owner. The Emperor was heartless first. Don't blame me for being merciless. The Shadow Guards all stared at Shi Shang. How could their Highness make it sound so easy for Northern Liang to change its owner? Your Highness. Shadow Guard A came forward to persuade him. We can't enter the city now. There might be traps inside. So what? Shi Shang took out his iron sword. If you want to leave, you can leave now. If you don't, follow me in. You might even be able to become a hero of the country. Shadow Guard A. They only hoped to not die. With so few people, they couldn't even raid the execution ground. Their mission was to protect Shi Shang. If Shi Shang wanted to enter, they had no choice but to follow him. The security at the northern gate should not be as tight as here. We can enter from there. Before Dark Guard A could finish his words, Dark Guard B suddenly yelled out. Your Highness! They saw Shi Shang walking towards the city gates without hiding anything. Boom! The city gate in the distance suddenly collapsed. When the tall city gate fell, the people inside screamed in fright. It was chaos. The crowd watched as the Shi Shang swaggered into the city. Shi Shang pulled the iron sword out of the door and looked at the people around him. One of them was riding a horse, presumably a general. He shouted angrily, Prince Rong, are you trying to rebel? His sharp gaze swept over Shi Shang, his eyes gloomy. Why did Prince Rong come back at this time? I didn't want to rebel. Why would she rebel for no reason? Then what do you want to do now? The gate was broken without any warning, and the general's heart was filled with anger. The Shi Shang tilted his head. I don't like the city gate, so I demolished it. Do you have a problem with me demolishing the city gate? The general's face was ashen. This was the city gate of the imperial city, which represented Northern Liang. If this gate was not a rebellion, what else could it be? Arrest Prince Rong. The general waved his hand and ordered. The higher-ups had said that no one from the Sima clan was to be spared. This Prince Rong was naturally within the Sima clan's jurisdiction. With just you. The Shi Shang laughed arrogantly, waving the sword in his hand. Waves of anguished wails sounded. Qi Yuan and two shadow guards stood outside the city gate, looking at the scene inside, their hearts filled with indescribable shock. No one in the world would dare to be so arrogant as to fight against an entire city by themselves. The shadow guards were only there to protect Qi Yuan. Rather than protecting him, it was more like watching him and not letting him escape. They stepped on the blood on the ground as they walked forward. The sounds of fighting at the city gate had already alerted the people at the execution ground. At this time, only the officials were left. The commoners had already fled. They thought that the Shi Shang would come to the execution ground, but the sound passed through the streets beside the execution ground and did not reach them. Someone stumbled over. Prince Rong. Prince Rong went to the imperial palace. Lord Sima was kneeling on the execution ground. His hair was silver and his face was full of wrinkles. His eyes were cloudy as he stared at the ground. When he heard that the Sher Shang was going to the imperial palace, his expressionless face finally showed some emotion. The man kneeling beside Lord Sima said resentfully, "Father, what is His Highness trying to do? It wasn't easy for us to get him out. Why is he coming back?" Lord Sima's cracked lips moved, but he didn't say a word. "What a sin! Our whole family was buried because of him, but he came back to die without a word." The man's voice was filled with grief and indignation. The people kneeling behind him all shed tears when they heard it. His Majesty has long wanted to deal with the Sima family. Even if His Highness didn't come, we would have reached this point sooner or later. Husband, don't blame His Highness. The woman beside the man choked with sobs. Who's blaming him? The man suddenly roared, his eyes red. I didn't agree when my little sister wanted to enter the imperial palace. She insisted, but look at what happened to her. Her family is ruined and she can't even keep the last of her bloodline. The woman looked regretful. Her husband had always doted on Prince Rong. How could he blame him? That's enough, everyone has their own fate. Lord Sima, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke. His voice was filled with vicissitudes of life. We've done all we can. Just wait. Whether they lived or died, the result would be known very soon. Since Lord Sima had spoken, the others didn't dare to speak. The officials at the execution ground didn't know what to do. The sounds of fighting could be heard from the direction of the imperial palace, causing everyone's hearts to palpitate and their scalps to go numb. After an unknown amount of time, noon had passed and the sun set in the west. The entire imperial city seemed to have fallen into a deathly silence. The sound of horse hooves broke the silence of the imperial city and gradually approached. The imperial edict has arrived. The people who were still frozen in the execution ground immediately knelt to receive the edict. The person who came opened the imperial edict and read it out loud. Lord Sima is to enter the imperial palace immediately for an audience. The rest are to be sent back to the Sima residence. Not only were the officials surprised, even the entire Sima clan was dumbfounded. Was this an acquittal? Father. Lord Sima shook his head. He didn't know what was going on either. You all go back first. I'll enter the imperial palace to take a look. Whether it was a blessing or a curse, he would know when he saw it. When Lord Sima and the others entered the imperial palace, they didn't see anyone else. When they arrived at the throne room, they saw a group of palace maids and eunuchs kneeling outside. It was estimated that almost all the palace maids and eunuchs in the imperial palace were here. The imperial guards were either lying down or kneeling. All of them looked dispirited, as if they had suffered some kind of blow. Lord Sima has arrived. Lord Sima walked through the group of palace maids and eunuchs and stepped onto the steps of the throne room. He had been walking on this path almost every day, but he had never felt as long as he did now. Lord Sima has arrived. Asterisk, monthly votes. Monthly votes. Monthly votes. Monthly votes. Chapter 1197. Announcements came one after another until he stepped into the throne room. The scene inside was completely different from what he had imagined. However, it was even more bizarre than he had imagined. The dragon throne that had once been placed at the top was now in pieces. The entire throne room looked as if it had been swept by a tornado. Everything that could be destroyed was basically destroyed. The youth stood in the middle, and beside him stood a man wearing a dragon robe. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking at the youth expressionlessly. He emitted a cold aura that kept strangers away. The once high and mighty emperor was now lying on the ground, unconscious. Even though Lord Sima was mentally prepared, he couldn't help but be stunned by the scene before him. Sher Shang turned around and met Lord Sima's gaze. He smiled and called out, "Grandfather." Lord Sima's first reaction was that this wasn't Prince Rong. Prince Rong couldn't have such a calm and collected aura. However, upon closer inspection, this was indeed Prince Rong. He had watched the child grow up, he couldn't be mistaken. Lord Sima suppressed the strange thoughts in his heart. Your Highness. What was the situation now? Who was that man in the dragon robe? His Majesty didn't have such a son. I'll leave Bailiong to you for the time being. This is the Imperial Jade Seal and the Military Seal. Grandfather, you don't need me to teach you how to make them, right? Shi Shang handed over the 2 boxes. Lord Sima felt his heart skip a beat. It was even more bizarre than when he saw the Emperor lying on the ground. His throat went dry. Your Highness, this is rebellion. Shi Shang's lips curled. Grandfather, if you didn't rebel, your head would be on the ground right now. Your Majesty, he is your biological father. In the future, you will be criticized behind your back. Rebellion was a serious crime. He wanted to kill me, why can't I retaliate? Grandfather doesn't know yet, right? He sent people to kill me at the border. She wasn't afraid of being criticized. Wasn't it just a bunch of NPCs? She was crazy to be angry with a bunch of data. What? Lord Sima's eyes widened, a complicated undercurrent surging in his eyes. How could he be so ruthless? What did the Sima family do to the imperial family? Grandfather, I'll go back and rest first. You can do whatever you want with the rest. Before Lord Sima could speak, Shi Shang said, I'm not interested in the throne. You can do as you see fit. She was very tired after such a long time. Sir Sima watched as Shi Shang and Qi Yuan left. After a while, he finally regained his senses and asked Shadow Guard B, who hadn't left, who is that man? Shadow Guard B was completely unperturbed, reporting to my lord, the Emperor of the Crimson Glory Empire. When you see such a rebellious person, you will also feel no ripples in your heart. There was no such thing as the most awesome, only more awesome. Who? Lord Sima felt that he had just experienced so much that his brain was a little slow to react. The Emperor of the Crimson Glory Kingdom, Qi Yuan. Shadow Guard be repeated seriously. Lord Sima. How could His Highness be together with that tyrant Qi Yuan? Could it be that Qi Yuan was the one who helped force the abdication? Qi Yao had always been eyeing Bai Liang covetously. What was his motive? A series of questions surged into Master Sima's mind. Shadow Guard be continued to release poison. Sir, he was kidnapped by His Highness. To be more accurate, he was snatched. They weren't the only ones who were dumbfounded. Lord Sima looked at Shadow Guard B strangely. What did you just say? I might have heard wrongly. Say it again. Shadow Guard B nodded. Sir, don't struggle anymore. You didn't hear wrongly. His Highness snatched him. His Highness snatched the Emperor of the Crimson Glory Empire. Lord Sima. Was he dreaming? Everything that had happened today felt unreal. Shi Shang left the throne room. The moment he came out, the palace maids and eunuchs kneeling outside immediately kept quiet out of fear. They were the lowest class of people and didn't want to die. Qi Yuan was a step behind Shi Shang. He looked at the last blood-red sun that was being swallowed by the darkness. Aren't you afraid that they will make the first move and behead him? Shi Shang glanced sideways. That's their fate. What can I do? Didn't you rush back to save them? Shi Shang shrugged. If I can save them, then I will. If I can't, then so be it. To me, there's no loss. Then why did you rush back? Qi Yuan increasingly felt that there was something wrong with this person. Since he didn't care, why did he rush back to save them? As a person, you have to work hard. Shi Shang paused. Look, didn't I save them? I don't want to talk to a lunatic. We are tired. Then let's go. We'll stay in the palace for today. Shi Shang walked towards Pure Flower's palace. Qi Yuan only found out a long time later that she had made 2 plans. If they decided to behead the Sima family, there would be hidden guards present. She wouldn't let any accidents happen. Qi Yuan looked towards the horizon again. The last ray of the sun disappeared and the entire world sank into darkness. Tomorrow would be a completely different day. Pure Flower's palace had been empty for several months, so it was even more deserted. Fortunately, Lord Sima heard that she was staying here and sent people to tidy it up. After tidying up the room, Qi Yuan immediately went in and shut Shi Shang outside. Shi Shang rolled his eyes and asked the eunuch beside him, "Has my mother been brought out?" The young eunuch shivered. Her Majesty was sent back to the Sima residence by Lord Sima. Shi Shang nodded and asked the young eunuch to leave. She looked at the tightly shut door and turned to enter the room next door. However, there was no rest for the entire night. Shi Shang only dealt with the people in the palace. Although he had obtained the commander's seal, there were still many people who had troops. The ministers joined forces, and the palace was in chaos the entire night. At this moment, Chu Luo, who had the most troops, wasn't around. When they went to the military camp to seek help, they were ignored. Chu Luo's men couldn't be mobilized by the commander's seal. They had to have Chu Luo's token and commander's seal, or Chu Luo's personal orders. Chu Luo had a total of 60,000 troops stationed in the military camp outside the city. There were so many people, but they couldn't be used. The group of ministers vomited blood. Since Chu Luo's side couldn't work, the ministers could only gather their scattered troops. Since there was a huge commotion outside, the palace naturally wasn't any better. Shi Shang couldn't take it anymore. He dragged his sword outside the palace and had a fight. He directly threatened them that if anyone dared to cause trouble again, they would go to hell together. Shi Shang had occupied the palace alone. The news of him killing his way into the palace from the city gates was even more widespread. These people were more or less afraid of him. Shi Shang threw a few energy balls to the secret guards guarding the palace gate. If these people dared to cause trouble, he would blow them up. He didn't believe that they weren't afraid of death. Shi Shang dealt with this group of idiots and returned to Pure Flower's palace. Then, he realized that Qi Yuan's door was open. There was no one in the room, and the bed hadn't been touched. Shi Shang's lips twitched. Did this fellow run away again? He's asking for a beating. #today I am looking for a ticket to Burn Flowers #friendly reminder. There are only two groups in this book. One is the VIP group. The other is the ordinary group. There are no other groups, the ordinary group is full. Whether you can enter or not depends on your luck. Maybe one day, someone will leave, smile. You don't know how to open a group, so I'm also very helpless about Cherub who didn't join the group in time, and the VIP group is still very empty. The way to join the group is to post at the top of the book review section. Chapter 1198. Shi Shang circled around Pure Flower's palace and saw Qi Yuan standing at the end of a corridor. He seemed to be looking at something with an impatient expression and an oppressive coldness emanating from him. It's good that he didn't run away. Qi Yuan turned around and saw Shi Shang. He paused for a few seconds before walking over. His face was filled with indifference. He pursed his lips and opened them, but no sound came out. Shi Shang asked strangely, "What's wrong?" Qi Yuan paused for a moment before saying, "We are in a hurry." Shi Shang really didn't understand what he meant. "What's the rush?" Qi Yuan frowned. "I need to go to the washroom." Shi Shang. "If you need to go to the washroom, then go to the washroom. Why did you have to be so secretive? You came out just for this? Did you think we ran away?" He wanted to run, but how could he leave the palace? There should be people outside the palace right now. He'd be crazy to run. Shi Shang. Since you have a criminal record, there's nothing wrong with thinking that, right? Shi Shang brought Qi Yuan to the outhouse. Qi Yuan went in. Shi Shang wanted to follow him, but he turned around and frowned. "What are you doing?" Shi Shang said with a straight face, "I'm afraid you'll run away." "We have foresight." Qi Yuan's expression was cold. "You're not allowed to come in. We're both men. What are you afraid of?" Qi Yuan slammed the door shut. Shi Shang rubbed his chin and smiled. Only that idiot Feng Ci could have such a temper. When Qi Yuan came out, Shi Shang was leaning against the door. He glanced at him before striding towards his room. Shi Shang followed him from a distance. Qi Yuan was irritated and wanted to chop someone up, but this wasn't his palace. He couldn't call anyone. Prince Rong, can you stop following us? Qi Yuan couldn't help but turn around and say impatiently, we don't like men. Don't waste your time on us. As long as this prince likes it. Shi Shang tilted his head and smiled. The moonlight shone down from the corridor, casting a hazy glow over her face. Her face seemed to become more beautiful, even more exquisite and beautiful than the women outside. However, it wasn't as delicate as theirs, breaking with a single snap. Qi Yuan turned his head away in annoyance. He couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. In any case, it wasn't good. He had never felt like this before. He took a deep breath, turned around, and quickly went back to his room and locked the door. Shi Shang shrugged and stood outside the room for a while before returning to his room. The next few days were filled with turmoil. People from all walks of life tried to suppress them. With the Shi Shang in charge, naturally, no one succeeded. Not only did no one succeed, but the Shi Shang even violently instigated a few people to defect. When Master Sima was still alive, he still had a few trusted aides. Now they could still be used. With their help, the court quickly stabilized. However, it was very lively outside. The throne was changed overnight. It was as if the weather had suddenly changed, catching everyone off guard. Of course, most of these commoners were just gossiping. Who would become the emperor had nothing to do with them. As long as they had enough to eat and clothes to wear, they didn't need to worry about anything else. The male and female leads were still fighting dungeons in Crimson Star, but the Shi Shang had already cleared the Bailiang Imperial Palace. At this speed, the male and female leads wouldn't be able to catch up to her clearing speed even if they tried to curry favor. My host has a special clearing technique, but what's with the tiring heart? The scariest thing in games was to encounter someone like the Shi Shang. You're still panting and following the mission route, but the other party has already finished fighting the final boss and distributed the equipment. When Chu Luo received the news, the entire matter was almost settled. The throne had changed, and the sky of Bailiang had changed. Although Chu Luo had military power in her hands, he was far away in Crimson Star. Distant water couldn't quench a present thirst, so there was nothing he could do. Most importantly, he never expected Rong Wang to have such strength. Compared to Chu Luo, Lu Ziyan was much calmer. She knew that Shi Shang was like her and wasn't from this world. Since she had also transmigrated, she definitely had some ability. Your Highness, young Master Qi isn't eating. Secret Guard stood beside Shi Shang and reported. Because they were in Bailiang, it wasn't appropriate to address him as His Majesty, so they all called Qi Yuan young Master Qi. This group of secret guards was now considered Shi Shang's personal secret guards. Shi Shang flipped through his book and said without looking up, if he doesn't want to eat, so be it. How can he starve to death if he doesn't eat? He's not that delicate. Secret Guard A. Didn't you say that there was something abnormal to report to you? Why was he making a fuss over nothing now? He couldn't understand His Highness. When Lord Sima entered, he happened to hear Shi Shang's words. The corners of his lips twitched speechlessly. Lord. When Secret Guard saw Lord Sima, he quickly bowed. He hadn't officially ascended the throne yet, so he still called him Lord. Lord Sima waved his hand, and Secret Guard tactfully retreated. Shi Shang put down his book. Grandpa, what's the matter? Your Highness, what are your plans for snatching the Emperor of Crimson Star? After so many days, she hadn't imprisoned Qi Yuan. Qi Yuan was even able to wear the imperial robes and strut around the palace. Now everyone knew that the Emperor of Crimson Star was in Pure Flower's palace. I don't have any plans. He's the Emperor of Crimson Star. He's not an ordinary person. Lord Sima was worried. I just received a report that Dan Ming has already brought people over. What does your Highness want with him? Shi Shang blinked. Isn't he disliked in Crimson Star? Why would someone come looking for him? Lord Sima shook his head and sighed. The Dan family is different. He glanced at Shi Shang. The Dan family controls most of the military power. Otherwise, why do you think no one dares to rebel against him? It's because the Dan family is standing behind him. Is the Dan family stupid? Shi Shang said bluntly. Shouldn't they be rebelling at a time like this? Running over to fetch someone was simply crazy. Lord Sima shook his head and sighed. Some people won't change their minds once they've decided on something. So be it. Do you think we're afraid of him? Capture him too and force the Dan family to surrender. We'll rule the world. Shi Shang's heroic spirit soared. Pfft. Lord Sima almost choked on his saliva. He had a good relationship with the Dan family. Grandpa Dan had helped him so much before. If he really did that, he would be an ungrateful person. He couldn't do something like that. Your Highness, can't you tell me what you want to do with Qi Yuan? I don't want to do anything. She really didn't want to do anything with Qi Yuan. She just wanted to snatch him back and raise him for observation. Now that she had basically confirmed it, all the more she couldn't let him go. Lord Sima didn't seem to plan on leaving until he got an answer. Shi Shang scratched his head. That is, I've taken a liking to him. Lord Sima looked at Shi Shang strangely. Shi Shang said with a straight face, Grandfather, why are you looking at me like that? I'm a girl. What's wrong with taking a liking to a man? Lord Sima finally reacted. That's right. His Highness was a girl. It was normal for her to take a liking to a man. There was nothing wrong with that. It was just that the man she took a liking to was a little problematic. Not to mention Qi Yuan's status, just his temper alone was enough. How many people could tolerate that temper of his? Wouldn't His Highness be wronged? No. Lord Sima shook his head. Your Highness, you can have any man you want. Qi Yuan is not good. Chapter 1199. Grandfather, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry about it. Just take care of those trivial matters. Shi Shang didn't want to listen to the old man's nagging and hurriedly stopped Lord Sima. Your Highness, Shi Shang straightened his expression and said seriously, Grandfather, I'm not the Prince Rong of the past. I know what I'm doing. Lord Sima looked at the youth in front of him and smiled bitterly. Prince Rong wasn't the Prince Rong of the past. He was a completely different person. The Prince Rong of the past was arrogant and despotic, but that was because of his status. Now, Prince Rong was still arrogant, but that arrogance seemed to have come from his bones. She had the strength to be arrogant. It was as if she was born this way. She didn't need to hide her brilliance and didn't need to look at anyone's eyes. She was the one in charge. Lord Sima's experience these past few days could be said to be very strange. He paused for a few seconds. Go visit your Mufei when you have time. She misses you. Okay. Shi Shang obediently agreed. Lord Sima didn't mention Qi Yuan's matter again. It wasn't clear if he had other plans, or if he really didn't care. He chatted with Shi Shang for a while before getting up to leave. After leaving Pure Flower's palace, Lord Sima looked at his son who was waiting outside and asked with a complicated expression, Do you think Prince Rong is still our Prince Rong? This sentence was a bit vague, but Sima Yong understood. Father, let's wait for little sister to see him first. They weren't sure if he was the real Prince Rong. After all, he had changed too much. But he didn't hide it and was open and honest. He wasn't afraid of being seen through at all. This made them even more confused. On second thought, he was so powerful. Even if he had other motives, why would he pretend to be someone else? Therefore, this person was most likely Prince Rong. Of course, Sima Yong didn't dare to say it out loud. After Lord Sima left, Shi Shang rubbed the space between his brows and got up to walk towards Qi Yuan's room. Before he even reached the room, he heard a crashing sound. The palace maids and eunuchs were all kneeling on the floor, their faces pale and their bodies trembling. Shadow Guard B was leaning against the door. His body was as taut as a bowstring, as if he had been frightened. Seeing Shi Shang come over, he hurriedly ran over. "Your Highness, Sir Qi is too scary. You should go take a look." "What's going on?" Qi Yuan had been here for so long, but he had never lost his temper like this before. Shadow Guard B swallowed his saliva. Just now, when the meal was delivered, young Master Qi suddenly lost his temper. A palace maid was frightened and spilled the soup, almost spilling it on young Master Qi. Young Master Qi. That was it. The murderous aura on his body was simply frightening. Shi Shang understood what had happened and went in through the front door. Qi Yuan was standing in the middle of a mess, staring at her with murderous eyes, as if he had expected her to come in. He opened his mouth slightly and said in a cold voice, "Kill those people." Shi Shang glanced at the food residue on the ground and frowned slightly. Didn't she tell them not to use these ingredients? The things that Feng Ci was picky about were basically the same. There would be a few deviations, and these deviations would be determined by his mood. She had tried it from the beginning, but Qi Yuan didn't eat those things. Therefore, he ordered his men not to serve these things anymore. Shi Shang glanced at him. "This isn't your Qi Yao. Don't lose your temper with this prince." The murderous aura in Qi Yuan's eyes faded a little, but it was replaced by an unknown emotion. "Does Prince Rong want to deprive us of our freedom? If you want to try, this prince doesn't mind. He could also try imprisoning him in a small dark room." Qi Yuan snorted, turned around, and walked inside. Shi Shang had the servants come in to clean up the room. Only after everyone had left did she enter the inner room. Qi Yuan stood in front of the window. Shi Shang didn't approach him. He stood at the door and asked, "This prince is going out of the palace. Are you coming?" Qi Yuan ignored him. Shi Shang waited for a moment. Seeing that he still didn't move, he said, "I'll bring you out to take a look. Perhaps you'll have a chance to escape. Are you sure you don't want to go?" Qi Yuan finally turned around. His cold gaze swept over her. This prince must travel according to the emperor's standards. "You still dare to negotiate with me? Don't you know what kind of situation you're in?" Shi Shang imitated him and said with a cold expression, "Then you stay here. This prince is leaving." Qi Yuan. Shi Shang really turned around and left. Qi Yuan's expression changed a few times before he chased after him. Shi Shang walked rather quickly. Qi Yuan chased after him until he reached the corridor outside before catching up. He didn't call out to her and just followed from a distance. When they were about to reach the entrance of Huaqing Palace, Qi Yuan saw that someone had brought some things over. Shi Shang asked them to put the things in the horse carriage parked outside. After the people dispersed, Shi Shang turned to look at him. "You're walking so slowly. Do you want this prince to carry you?" The palace maids and eunuchs around them had strange expressions on their faces, but they could only pretend that they didn't hear anything. Qi Yuan quickened his pace. Without needing Shi Shang to say anything, he directly got into the horse carriage. Shi Shang followed him and sat opposite him. "Let's go." The carriage started to move slowly. It was very stable, unlike when it was outside. Shi Shang opened the food box on the small table in the middle of the horse carriage. His tone softened. "You've calmed down. Eat something." Qi Yuan subconsciously pursed his lips. These things were actually prepared for him. Qi Yuan stared at the food box and said sarcastically, "Bailiang's imperial chefs aren't that good." Shi Shang didn't react. He said calmly, "Just put up with it. When I'm free, I'll go and capture the imperial chefs from Qi Yao for you." Qi Yuan. He glared at Shi Shang angrily. He grabbed the chopsticks that Shi Shang had placed on the table and picked up the bowl to eat. Shi Shang stared at him as he ate. Qi Yuan suddenly shouted in exasperation, "Don't look at me like that. This prince likes to look at you. This prince doesn't like men." Qi Yuan said these words with a murderous look. He made a gesture to put down the bowl. Shi Sheng quickly averted his gaze. All right, I won't look at you. Hurry up and eat. Shi Sheng lowered his head and continued reading. He really didn't look at him. Qi Yuan looked at him for a while before he started eating. Qi Yuan didn't eat much. He put down the bowl and sat back in the innermost seat. It was the seat furthest away from Shi Sheng. Shi Sheng glanced at him. He put the food back into the food box and handed it over. Do you hate this prince that much? Shi Sheng asked him. Qi Yuan crossed his arms. The coldness between his eyebrows seemed to overflow. You were captured. How can you not hate him? This prince can't do anything about it. Shi Sheng spread his hands. He was also in despair. Who asked you to be so weak and have no memory? Why don't you give this prince a kiss? Maybe you won't think that way. Qi Yuan seemed to have heard something unbelievable. He glared at him. You wish. Actually, this prince. Sure. The carriage suddenly went out of control and jolted. Shi Sheng fell backwards due to inertia and landed on Qi Yuan. The carriage quickly stabilized. Shi Sheng looked up at Qi Yuan. His expression was extremely bad. Shi Sheng was amused. He finished his sentence. You wish. Her scent hit him in the face. It didn't smell like a man, only a delicate fragrance. Qi Yuan suddenly reached out to push her. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.